Scott, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. It is, well, I have 6:01, that clock
Me
says
too.
1 minute to 6.
Okay, 6:01, call this meeting to order. Yes?
Sure.
Can everybody please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, this public body, the Hopatcong Board of Education, hereby announces that the New Jersey Herald and the Daily Record have been notified by email that this Board of Education work session will take place at 6 p.m. on August 18th, 2022, in the Board of Education meeting room within the Board of Education building at 2 Windsor Avenue, Hopatcong, New Jersey. Jeff, can you call the roll?
Ms. Falcone Schubert,
Present.
Mr. DiStefano,
Present.
Mr. Falcone,
Here.
Mr. Grunfelder,
Here.
Ms. Goulart,
Here.
Ms. Gravatt,
Here.
Ms. Turkington,
Here.
Ms. Polachena,
Here.
Mr. Francis.
I'm here.
Do you have to make a motion for the superintendent report or just do it? Okay. Dr. Picarello, can you please give the superintendent's report?
Yeah. Thank you very much. The superintendent's report is lengthier than you've been accustomed to, mostly because this meeting is going to incorporate some elements of of our committee topics. For the purposes of clarity and brevity, I've written out my superintendent's report. I have shared it with the board prior to this meeting, but I will read it aloud so that the public can hear. I will try to project my voice. And we do have plenty of opportunities for discussion during the discussion portion, also within board member comments, so that we can further explore any of these areas. So the first item here is mission and vision, and we spent a great deal of time working through these 2 years ago and officially launched them about a year ago today at our August 2021 goals meeting. And I think it's valuable to revisit them as we begin our meeting tonight. And as we create goals, it's important to keep them in mind. So the ones you're going to hear are not new. These are the ones we did about a year ago at this same meeting. The mission: Hopatcong provides a thorough and efficient education which focuses on the whole child and builds upon the unique talents and interests of each student. We expect excellence from our entire faculty and staff as we prepare our students to compete at the highest level in the classroom, on the field, on the stage, and in their pursuits after graduation. We understand our roles as partners with parents in educating children and commit to working with the community to provide added value and pride to all who call Hopatcong home. And then the vision statement: Hopatcong empowers students to blaze their own trail through trust, tenacity, and teamwork. The second point in the superintendent's report is the Hopatcong Marketplace. We have several of these scheduled, but our first one is Saturday, August 20th, so that's this Saturday. I will be there at Max and Glen from noon to 4. I will have a table with some swag to give away. Please stop by and say hello. And I'm more than happy to hear feedback from the community, speak to families, take suggestions, share good news, etc. I know it's hard for folks to get to work the table in the summer. We try to get some folks to work the table. We'd hope to do that in future months. But if you want to participate, the next one's September 10th, after this Saturday. So let me know, and I'll do my best to include you in future meetings. I think Nicole's joining me for
Yes,
that's
for part of it.
That's awesome.
Oh, good.
Are you Jen?
I will be there
And Jen,
also.
it's turning into a party.
Actually,
I hope we don't have a
I'm gonna be there
quorum.
also.
Oh,
No, my wife is coming. She wanted to go to the market, so I might as well go.
great. I will try to bring some chairs. Okay, Beautification Days. So this year we'll be holding a few Beautification Days where the community will be invited to participate in some cleanup efforts on our grounds and campus. We had originally planned to start this summer, but due to the short timing and difficulty of getting people together in the midst of vacation plans, I'm really, really thankful that Ms. Falcone Schubert and Mr. Falcone and their respective families have volunteered to put in some sweat equity into our campus by doing some mulching, planting flowers and plants this week in preparation for the start of school. And a special shout out to Nesters and Sunnyside for their donation of plants. And then stay tuned for our upcoming fall cleanup dates. The State of the Schools meetings is August 31st, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the high school CAF. One of the suggestions that came from Mr. Gruenfelder's focus group was to have State of the Schools meetings to give updates on the happenings within the district. And I'm really proud to share that we'll have 4 of these this year. Our first, as I mentioned, is Wednesday, August 31st at 6, right before the start of the school year. The administrators will be joining me, and we will spend some time covering news in each of the schools, as well as some wide-ranging district topics of interest, such as curriculum changes, gifted and talented, items circulating the rumor mill, and most importantly, though, to brag about a lot of the accomplishments in the district and communicate our direction moving forward. If you are watching this at home, a lot of these topics will be revisited at that State of the Schools, but I'd still welcome the opportunity to see you there in person. The District Professional Development Plan.
A quick question.
Yes, sir.
Jerry, will you be attending these meetings?
Which one?
The State of the School meeting?
Yes.
Yes, okay, just, fine.
Okay. Each year, each of the New Jersey school districts must prepare a district professional development plan. This plan is based in part on meeting the legal compliance, but is also carefully tied to district mission, vision, board goals, and the needs determined by the superintendent. The professional development plan is then used by teachers in developing their own individual goals, which are part of their individual evaluations. And the professional development plan has been shared with the board members prior to this meeting in draft form, with the understanding that based on the conversations we have here tonight, they may be edited before shared out with the entire staff at the beginning of school, September 1st and 2nd. This will be on agenda for approval at the public meeting in a couple of weeks. The district mentoring plan, similarly, it's renewed each year in compliance with NJAC, and as such, all teachers hired and working under a provisional teaching cert must be assigned a mentor. The mentoring plan was revised 2 years ago by myself and has been shared with the board members prior to this meeting. This will be on agenda for approval for renewal. It's the same plan as last year, just with dates changed at the public meeting. COVID update. As you may have heard, Governor Murphy lifted the requirement that non-vaccinated staff test for COVID weekly. That is new. That just came out this past week. And other than that change, we will remain largely status quo with regard to masking, mask optional, and all other COVID-related items will be relatively the same as they were from June. In addition to being mask optional, we'll also be notifying families of outbreaks in a fashion that's analogous to the way we inform people of lice. So we will tell you when there's a situation, but we will not be contact tracing, and that's per the new regulations from New Jersey.
Will we still be getting those daily emails?
Like to the entire district?
Yeah, it said like this many cases of positive.
No, I'm not planning to do that.
Fine.
Number 8.
Sorry, one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
If it's not weekly, is there another interval? Monthly, semi-monthly, whatever?
Oh, regarding the testing? No testing at all.
No testing is required, okay.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. Athletic events, staff, and supervision. On the public agenda for approval at the end of this month will be a series of small positions which are approved annually and deal with the safety and security of our students, as well as the proper functioning of an athletic event. So these roles include ticket sellers, scoreboard operators, crowd control, gate and parking attendants. The payment for these tasks range from $50 to $100 an event, depending on the role. I put that on there because you will see those for approval next month. This was a topic of conversation last year around this time, and we kept the prices the same. We are continuing to keep the prices the same as they were last year. I anticipate your support, but you will see that.
Mr. Superintendent,
Yeah.
if I may, with the athletic events, do we anticipate having any police protection at those events?
We do generally have police protection at some of the events, but I think some of it's determined based on size. Jeff's nodding, yeah, so.
Yep. Yep. Not every event, but selected
But every
events,
home
big
football
rivalries,
game,
home
for
football
instance.
games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number 9, the Center for Prevention and Counseling. We have been very fortunate to have partnered with the Center for Prevention and Counseling to support our Hopatcong students K through 12 through a variety of programs over the past few years. I'm thrilled to share that we've been included in a grant that will now additionally provide our students in grades 3 through 7 with Botvin's life skill training, which will cover personal self-management skills, general social skills, drug resistance skills, as well as the pre-venture program for 8th grade students, which is aimed at providing targeted interventions to promote mental health and skill development to delay youth substance abuse. The board members have been shared a full list of the programs that we're currently offering through the Center of Prevention for free through our partnership with grants. And I'm hopeful that these programs will be yet another tool which will help alleviate concerns that the public and this board have shared with me about bullying, student mental health, social emotional learning, and substance abuse, which have also been topics of our SAC committee and Mr. Gruenfelder's focus group. I will add that I've reached out to the Center for Prevention and Counseling. I'm struggling saying that all out. The Center for Prevention and Counseling. I've reached out to them about coming to an upcoming board meeting so that they can speak to the public about all these things, because other than the summary that I've shared with the board in this kind of like pithy paragraph, they have a lot of really great data to show and stuff that should make us really proud of the supports that we're giving students. So stay tuned to that. I hope it can be in October sometime. They're going to get back to me.
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us who's responsible for that grant? Because I personally think it was a tremendous effort, and I can't tell you how pleased and proud I am that we were awarded the grant, because the items that you suggested would be covered have become much more center of focus in education than ever before.
Yeah, thank you. So the person responsible is Tina at the Center for Prevention and Counseling.
Oh, I was hoping it was going to be you.
Oh, well, no.
Okay, good.
Tina meets with us, looks for, asks us what our needs are. She'll ask us things related to, the school demographics and letters of support and things like that. And she does the heavy lifting of getting it going.
What's your last name?
AUE.
Sure.
If it meets with the approval of the board, I would like to find a way to give her a pat on the back for
Sure.
doing this.
Yeah.
If it be a letter, a note, whatever, because
Good.
I think it's a tremendous achievement. I've written grants, and nobody should have to write a grant. They're awful. So I'm very grateful, and I don't know, would the rest of the board agree with me?
I think it's a fine
Yeah,
idea.
great.
And like I said, Mr. Gruenfelder, I think we can draft a letter and get your signatures on it, but we hope to have Tina here also in October, where we can publicly thank her. So,
Quick question, I don't
Yes.
know, can you explain what Botvin's life skill training is?
I can, just with what I shared.
You didn't have
But-
any of it, Phil.
Yeah, obviously.
But, no, I can't, not in great detail. Number 10 is the NJDOE Dreams. NJDOE likes forced acronyms, and so this
Okay, I guess that.
stands for Developing Resiliency and Engaging Approaches to Maximize Success. So in the past, we've often discussed concerns with school climate with regard to student and staff well-being, stress management, and burnout. And these concerns seem to be ubiquitous across NJDOE. And in the most recent August 3rd memo, the NJDOE has presented a new initiative called the DREAMS program. It is a partnership between the NJDOE and the NJDCF, and it's free. And I'm going to attend the webinar on next week, Wednesday, August 24th, to learn more about it. But I've already spoken to our county superintendent and agreed to lead an ad hoc committee of the superintendents in the county. And to be honest, that's a blatant effort to have Hopatcong seen as someone worthy of supports. It's currently not clear how districts are going to be chosen to participate, but I've been loud and proud in trying to get to be a part of it. I'm hopeful that as president of the Sussex County Superintendent's Roundtable Association, and by offering to spearhead this ad hoc committee, will be seen as a worthy candidate for the free support, and I'll update you when I receive more information. Curriculum revisions is number 11, and Mr. D and a team of social studies teachers worked diligently this summer to revise social studies curriculum. A few of the key components were aligning the curriculum to the new NJSLS 2020 standards, which go into effect this September 2022. It was delayed 2 years because of the pandemic, and to include among the new curricular revisions and standards was a purposeful focus on civics. So that has been put into the curriculum. Curriculum updates were also made in psychology, cosmetology, and Gnt, gifted and talented. And during the State of the Schools meetings, scheduled for August 31st, Mr. Di Benedetto will be among the administrators present, and we'll be discussing some of the specific curriculum revisions, and we'll also spend time specifically discussing the new health and PE NJSLS that we've discussed as a group together. NJSLS, the PE NJSLS, and how the curriculum will be modified to be in compliance with the standards while honoring the recent board regulation on controversial topics passed earlier this year. Mr. D will also discuss latest changes to G&T, which will bring us in compliance with state regulations.
I have a question on
Yes.
that. If we're talking about the same thing, there are a number of boards that have passed resolutions indicating that they refuse to comply with the State Board of Education's imposition of these standards. Are we going to be among those?
That's a good question for the board, probably not for me, but I guess I'll answer with, we did spend time talking about this, and I think that our effort to put that regulation together was in an effort to be in legal compliance with the state and represent our constituencies in the community.
That's where we put some constraints within the controversial topics.
Right.
Okay, I guarantee.
But it doesn't like outlaw CRT stuff.
Well, it's not about
We didn't really
CRT.
get into that at all.
It's not about CRT.
Well,
That's a separate
well, that could be introduced into the curriculum.
CRT. Could be.
Critical race theory, yeah.
Yes, no, I just.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
But, okay, so I suppose you would say CRT could be put into any curriculum, and I would understand that. But specifically speaking, the PE health standards have a controversy unto themselves outside of CRT.
Sure.
Okay.
No doubt.
I just don't want to bite off too much we can chew in this one conversation.
Will that be an agenda item for the board to vote on?
Something that we should discuss certainly within the SAC committee. I guess in both committees is really it's really ubiquitous. So
Sure.
Yes, that's the short answer, I think.
Yeah, so we need to have my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this. My understanding is the NJSLS 2020 has to be adopted during this school year. It's been unclear to me whether it needs to be adopted prior to September start, and so for me, I'm looking at it as not a requirement that we adopt it and start it in September, but we can adopt it this school year and be in compliance. Does that seem right?
I think that's fine. The DOE did release some sort of guidance that gives you the district some discretion, like broadly speaking,
Right.
on how the curriculum complies with it.
I'm most concerned that we have it in place before QSAC,
Because I assume the big concern for the district.
which will be, I believe will be in February, but I'll talk about it more in a little bit.
Yeah, but if the state is not, I mean, they're giving us a lot of flexibility as to whether or not we adopt this, right?
Not to
No.
adopt it, how you adopt it. And the
Implementation.
implementation of it is given a lot of leeway.
And that would be shown specifically like within the curriculum itself. Would aspects of this be included in the curriculum?
I'll show it to you and to the public. So I'm not trying to, I wouldn't try to hide it. Basically, all I'm trying to do is, I want to stay very true to the regulation that we spent time on. And I want to try to incorporate the standards so that we're in compliance. Now, one of the things that I shared with the public, and I think this was back in April, is some of the outrage, and I can understand where it's coming from, when it comes to the standards was some of the language and examples used. So it would say something like, I'm going to try to make like a wild analogy so not to offend. It'll say, all food is nutritious, and then it'll say, for example, and so people will say, okay, all food has some sort of nutrition. We can agree on that. Then it'll say, for example, Jolly Ranchers, and people are like, that's not particularly nutritious. Like, why would that be an example? And so people are having kind of outrage over the example. But if you went back to what the standard is, people would say, oh, I'm largely in agreement with that. Is that making sense? Or
If you want me to.
What is the statute, the number of the statute? I want to read it.
I don't know.
Counselor?
I also don't know the statute. It's the state released the core curriculum. So I think just to kind of piggyback though, Joe, we said it's the
Well,
state.
my point is I want to read the original statement from the state. Put us down this road.
So I think the easiest is the DOE released updated kind of a reaction to the public, right? Because the public came out very strongly, and the DOE kind of released an update, exactly what Joe said, that they said, we understand some of our examples were given kind of upset a number of people. And if you read the example, you understand why. So what the state said is, look, these are examples. We want to give flexibility to the districts and how they want to implement these. And so I think that's what Joe was saying, that we can comply with the state's requirements, but do so in a way that represents our community's values.
The standards
We don't
are
have to do that.
posted online.
The standards are, online.
Is that what you mean to say?
Yeah, I want to read the state document that put us down this road. That's all.
NJ, DOE,
I'll
standards.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, but
Okay,
they'll be
just
on.
send it to me. I'll get into it.
Jerry, go ahead.
Is there any sentiment on the part of the board for adopting a similar resolution as the other districts have, completely repudiating the incorporation of this in our curriculum? And if so, what is the penalty for non-compliance? Because I guarantee they're going to be coming out of the woodwork, ranting and raving and screaming, no matter how delicate we try to put this.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I
fair
think we need to
question.
read, I personally, I need to read this thing thoroughly and then have a good understanding of what the state actually said before I could say yes or no to that question. And I suggest everybody do the same thing.
So before our next committee meeting, if it's on the agenda, take a look at those standards, so everybody has a clear understanding of what it is that we either might be against or want to make more clear.
Right.
And then we can have a discussion.
And we
about it.
definitely
Exactly.
can have.
You gotta do it from.
So I also want to say this, the curriculum that we have, what we've been trying to do is keep the curriculum and not change it, just realign standards. Like, that's what we're trying to do here. It's not as if we threw the curriculum away and started from scratch and tried to embody the spirit of the new standards. We're just aligning standards, and that causes some things to change a little bit. But how about this? Let's take a different tact. I can present both curricula side by side to this group once we have it kind of aligned, and you can tell me if you think things are objectionable. It's certainly the intent. I know in my communications with Mr. D, the intent is to honor the regulation that this board put forth, because we spent a lot of time discussing it, and to be in compliance with the state, and to represent the people I know that I've spoken to and that have come to these meetings.
was that discussed in committee? Because I don't recall a thorough discussion at a public board meeting
About what?
of these standards.
But I feel like we had a big conversation in April about it at that full meeting. I mean, that's my.
Okay. And a question for council. Any idea what the potential consequences might be if the board were to adopt a resolution repudiating these standards?
So I think there's a difference in the board adopting a resolution and what your curriculum looks like. And
No, I'm talking about adopting a resolution.
So sending a message to Trent that we disagree.
Exactly.
No, there's no, the board still has the first amendment right, you can always adopt a resolution that says we disagree with this implementation. Again, that's different than whether standards apply and how you get them with the Abuse Act, but simply passing a resolution that says we disagree with this curriculum. Am I answering your question? Do you see what I'm saying the distinction is? No, the board can always pass a resolution.
No,
we
I
disagree with the state,
understand
we're sending a
that.
message to trend, and there's no downside to that. I mean, there's no.
Without putting the Board of Education in serious jeopardy, can we adopt a resolution similar to the one that was adopted by the Garwood Board of Education, where they stood up basically and said, we are not going to do this?
So, I'll be frank, I read the articles about the Garwood resolution. I have not personally read it, so I don't know verbatim what it says.
I read the Garwood resolution. I mean, the Garwood, Phil and I, we've spoken about Garwood. In that, Garwood specifically mentions the examples. And that's kind of tied to what I was saying. And so I think that they were taking objection, and I understand why, to the examples that were being used in those standards. And I think that led in part to the kind of feedback the state gave to say, all right, look, the examples aside,
So,
the standards are.
and if I remember correctly, I think Garwood came out, and then the state issued kind of a response that said, these examples are just examples, we're giving a lot of flexibility to districts. So I would encourage exactly what Phil said, and that maybe get the information, get the state's position, and then the board can make a determination on how it wants to proceed.
Oh, by the way, Middletown did the same thing as Garwood.
Yes. Middletown got into a little hot water compared to Garwood.
Well, they told me they rejected. I mean, I was talking to one of the councilmen,
But
whatever they call themselves.
in the end, I do think, maybe my perception is wrong. I do think that this board did take a pretty bold stance by doing a regulation on controversial topics, because I think we did listen to the feedback we got from the community,
Right.
and I think largely it's been well received. That I know I've had a couple of emails back and forth since then with people that have asked, was that finally put forth? I said, yeah, it was, and they were appreciative. But
And I had published stuff on Facebook and got some feedback as to which way we should go.
Right.
I think the bottom line is, we're not going to move on this, we have all school year, so we can discuss
We have
that
many
later.
months to keep kind of parsing
Right.
it out. But
I'm gonna look all these things up that you all mentioned, the Garwood.
we didn't really answer Jerry's question. The board didn't.
Well,
I don't think
That's
the
a
board has to
discussion.
answer my question. I'm not asking for a definitive answer. I'm just bringing it to the point of a discussion because based upon my experience, if we're gonna talk about those things, we're gonna have a full house.
Well,
We are
we
going
did
to.
kind of address it because we said we're gonna go take a look at the state, we're all gonna look at the appropriate documentation, and then we'll have our discussions about it. So we did come to a decision as to how we're gonna proceed from here and how we're going to ultimately address it. So I think that's a good answer.
And you're saying that was in a public meeting, and
No, it's just that it-
I guess I was hiding under the table. I don't know.
Well,
I
We
don't-
were in
It was
the
gymnasium.
gymnasium. It was a committee of a whole.
Right.
Maybe it was one of the first ones we tried.
I think that was the meeting where
It was pretty packed.
Yeah, it was, and there were a lot of
the
people.
Maxim school president or whatever it was, when he was there,
You're
giving
correct.
us the horns.
I think we talked about Tulsa Trail that night, and we
Right.
talked about the new students coming onto the board, so.
Yes, that's right.
And
That's
will
it.
that student ambassador have input into some of this as well?
No, he can't vote, other than that, he's.
I know they,
That's-
I
He
know,
can have
I
input,
know
though.
they can't vote, but student input into that, which I know they've had some, but I wanna make sure that that's all included in the overall
Yeah.
perception of everything
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. But
Yeah.
that's a very different look at things from what,
Than just asking everybody on Facebook.
right. I like hearing our student
Yeah, that's
ambassadors'
good.
input, I think it's important and valid. But yes, thank you. Feasibility study?
Yeah. Number 12, feasibility study update.
Good.
So as you know, I have addressed, at several previous public meetings, I have been actively pursuing various avenues that provide a better education for our students at a more reasonable cost to our taxpayers. That this remains important to me, considering the state aid numbers project to again decrease, and our students are still recovering from what many have called COVID learning loss. When some people hear me say that I'm investigating all avenues, they interpret this to mean that our school is shutting down. This is not true. Some on social media will have you believe our high school is not opening in a few weeks. This is poppycock. I want to reiterate tonight what I shared when I discussed.
Not a word you use very often.
There was another word that's probably more appropriate.
I think you have a potty mouth.
Guilty. So I want to reiterate tonight what I shared when I discussed consolidation several months ago. In order to do this, or anything of that type of magnitude, I would need 1, a willing partner, and 2, a feasibility study, which would take 5 to 6 months to complete. That would be approved at a board meeting, public board meeting, and a 100-page or so report would be generated, giving the Board of Ed and the public all the information they'd ever want to know, and quite a bit of information they would care not to know, in terms of the pros, cons, and logistics and timeline for a decision. This feasibility study also would need to be done to vacate Tulsa Trail and reconfigure the district. Once I have any substantive updates on any of these fronts, I will share them with the board and the public. But that is my update for you on feasibility study.
Only a suggestion.
Yeah.
Because another thing that I'll guarantee is that you're not going to get unanimous agreement on any of the outcomes of this feasibility study. Would it make any sense at all to have a few representative parents from the community involved with this as well, because that might serve to quiet the outcry?
I would be willing. First of all, I feel like I do. I think they're on the board. But even still, once I have a partner that's interested and there's something to discuss, I'd be willing to discuss it with parents for sure, even your focus group folks or anyone else. Because here's where I stand on it. There's 2 things that should not be controversial to anyone. 1, we're in a financial crisis, and there's been a tax burden on the taxpayer. And 2, the ability to run some of our programs has become more difficult. Case in point, there are some AP courses we can no longer run. That's just declining enrollment and lack of staff. And 2, and I don't mean to make these things seem as equal, but they're both important in their own way, we could barely have an offensive line in football this past season. So I'm looking at these things saying, we're in a position where you're getting more taxes and you're having a difficult time running some things at the high school. Would you prefer to have a Board of Education and a superintendent that kind of cry, woe is me, and sit on our hands? Or would you prefer to have Board of Education and superintendent that at least look into possibilities? That doesn't mean any will affect you.
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, thanks. Camp updates. I mentioned this at the July board meeting, but I couldn't be more proud of our students and teachers for the success of the academic and enrichment camps. We had 114 students participate, and 40 of those participants took part in more than one camp. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. In the end, it was something that cost nothing to the district and helped many students and families tremendously. And I hope to see this continue next summer. Number 14 is the Gifted and Talented program.
Sorry, how did you measure success here?
Success?
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah.
It helped many students, or is that?
Yeah. Well,
How do you know it helped?
Well, they're week-long camps, so I wasn't running extensive data on academic improvement, but help in the sense that, 1, I know many families needed to have a place for their kids, and so I know from their parents that it helped their families. And 2nd, I saw packed classrooms and happy kids, so that was for me a success.
When we say camps too, Phil, it wasn't like academic camps.
Okay.
Is
Oh,
that
that's
what
right.
you're
Oh,
thinking?
that was
Yeah,
my-
no, so some examples were they had
Well, it says here,
No, we had
success of
both.
academic and enrichment.
We have like STEM camps and things like
Okay.
this, right?
But I'm not like, it's not like, remedial reading. or
These were not
something like
pods.
that.
Pods
Right,
is separate.
Right.
No, the only reason why I asked is because
Yeah.
you say success of the academic and enrichment camp.
Yeah, I mean, 114 students is success.
Just the count, just the head count? This is-
Yeah, head count alone is success on that.
Okay.
I mean, they're week-long camps, Phil, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, you're not getting that much done.
No, I know. Yes, Jared.
I'm a little upset at the fact, and I know it's a financial restraint or constraint,
Mhm.
that we will not be able to offer some AP courses
Yeah.
at the high school.
Mhm.
Is it at all possible to partner with other high schools in the area, adjust the schedules so that it might be done through a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, I have it somewhere. I don't have, I think I have it in my office. Short answer, yes, it is possible. I'm gonna work with some neighboring districts to see if anyone's interested.
I think that's
But,
that's
but the other piece of it
Yeah.
is, I want to talk to the board today about the 10 students that are from China that will be here at the old Hudson Action Space. Some of them are interested in taking some AP courses, and if it means the difference between having a class of 3 that we might not run and a class of 6 that we would run, I know they're not our students, and so, but it's a possibility.
They live in Hopatcong, so theoretically.
No,
They live in, I
don't
think,
live in-
Byron,
Yeah, they
but
don't.
they live close.
Thank you for the correction, as
Oh.
always. Would they be attending the AP classes on a tuition basis?
This is what that's what we have to talk about, because right now, I'm going a little out of order, so, I'll try to be concise. The Chinese, students that are coming here, and Yi, who you've met before, we've been trying to work together on initiatives to help us both. Because we have this new neighbor here in our town, and if we can come up with mutually advantageous things, there's no reason we can't work together. You'll remember that he donated $35,000 worth of instruments, gave us free lessons. He's gonna continue that work. You know that he's planning to give us about $30,000 towards, help us with a nurse. That's a great help to us. In turn, I'd like to give him transportation from his dorms in Byram to the Hudson Maxon School. And I would also like to give him 3 classrooms worth of space in the middle school that are free. Because right now, they're not able to open until October. And so if I can give him a space for 2 months, I think it's a fair deal. And if we can have a few of his students take an AP class, that could be another option.
I couldn't agree with you more. I had a meeting with him offline, and I think that program and the students that he's talking about, having come over from China and Taiwan, I think those are the kinds of students who would be very effective in having our students excel, because it would give them. My understanding is that these are very bright students.
Yeah.
Coming in from China, that they're advanced, and just my experience in education means that if you can sprinkle a class with high-achieving youngsters, it raises everyone else's performance. And I think it's a wonderful interaction, and definitely a benefit for the Hopatcong Board of Education.
Great. Well, thank you for saying that. That makes me, sometimes these things are out of the box, you don't know how people will react, so I appreciate that support, Jerry.
I met with the gentleman and the youngsters who were coming over from China and Taiwan, and their parents are exceptionally well off, And it could conceivably result in a delegation of our parents and students going to China and Taiwan. I think the possibilities are really incredible. So if you're the individual responsible for that, then I certainly take my hat off to you, because I'm very much in favor. I don't like losing AP courses. I find that youngsters, given the right environment, are going to strive to meet the highest standards. And I think by partnering with these youngsters, I think it's a tremendous. And the other thing, I would make sure that people know about it. I know the mayor is.
Can I interrupt? I understand that, we're praising everyone, but we're almost getting to the point that we're getting off topic, that these are comments that can be left for the end when we're trying to close up the meeting. Like, I just feel like we're going on and on and on and on about each thing. We didn't even, I'm sorry, we haven't even let the superintendent get through his entire report.
Okay, I'll shut up.
Okay, so we did the camp
I appreciate
updates.
your comments. Was I on?
No,
I'm sorry.
Did you do? Yeah, I can't wait, please. Get the Untitled?
I don't think I did that one. Okay, so
Okay.
number 14. So we will have gifted and talented offered next year, which for one is great that Ms. Rizzo, who's been a wonderful media specialist for us, social studies teacher, curriculum writer extraordinaire. She's a really talented individual. She will be running Gnt for our students in grades 3 through 7. Students have already been identified for initial screenings of Gnt, and families have received letters from Mr. DiBenedetto explaining this process. I believe the first test is tomorrow for some of them. So in order to qualify for pull-out Gnt instruction, the students will need to score in the top 4% on the COGAT, which is a cognitive abilities test, and it's generally kind of universally respected test in this area. Testing will take place for eligibility last days of August. I think the first one is tomorrow. And our Board of Ed policy on Gnt is included for edit, which has been shared with the Board of Ed to be reflective of some of these new procedures that frankly were very updated. Number 15, CUSAC. Many of you will remember that the New Jersey Quality Single Accountability Continuum, CUSAC, is a process school districts go through every few years for evaluation and to determine compliance in the areas of instruction and programming, fiscal, governance, operation, and personnel. During my first year in the district, we were CUSAC'd, and we passed, and this was a big accomplishment on the part of many folks in the district, as the process is a large and painstaking undertaking. It appears that we may be the lucky recipients of another CUSAC this year. Some of this is still up in the air, and we have not received official notice that we will have CUSAC, but in anticipation of this possibility, I've been working carefully with Mr. Hollenbach, Mr. DiBenedetto, and our entire team to ensure our curriculum standards are up to date and that we are meeting all of our compliance requirements. So there will be more to come in the next several months, and almost at every meeting we'll discuss this for a while on CUSAC. And number 16, using data to drive decision making. Entering into this new school year, I just want to update the Board of Ed and public on some of the processes that we follow to ensure that students are learning. We continue to explore freedom to learn concept, which has been discussed by Mr. DiStefano and the SAC committee. Tangentially, Phil, I did speak with Kurt at the kind of advice of Jackie, because Kurt Zimmerman has been doing something sort of analogous at the high school in supporting students. And when he explained to me in full, it was pretty exciting. Not exactly the same, but there are many similarities, and so I invited him and his team to share some of that with us. But it's a part. It's not exactly freedom to learn, but we have been meeting with teachers, counselors, and CST members regarding RTI, which is response to intervention, and members of the high school staff on some of the intervention protocols they follow to ensure student success. And I think I just said this. We'll have someone from the high school intervention team at a recent meeting to discuss strategies to the SAC committee or even to the full board. But specifically to the point of using data to drive decision-making, this year presents an important opportunity for the district, as it will be the first time since 2019 that things feel a little more normal in schools following COVID. Now more than ever, our teachers will be digging into the data that will come from the beginning of the year benchmark testing, which we run through Performance Matters, and the data that will come by way of IXL analytics, Start Strong testing, DIBELS, and running records. All of the data will be used to place students into preparedness tiers so that teachers can best create SGOs, which stands for Student Growth Objectives. Part of the teacher's annual evaluation is based on how well the teacher effectuates academic improvement in their students. Our teachers will be using analytics from the testing data to make decisions on how to best instruct each student, which specific areas they're struggling in, how to track each child's progress, etc. And through the use of paper, our new tutoring program that will give 24/7 on-demand access for tutoring for students in grades 1 through 12, we hope to reinforce the importance of continuous improvement and a growth mindset for our students and teachers. We'll be approaching teaching systematically and purposefully and using the data to make decisions that best impact students. And then one extra point on the freedom to learn. I did speak with Mr. Ben-Fatti, principal of middle school today. We are identifying 6th grade as a potential pilot grade.
Oh, good.
And we'll be meeting with the team on the first days of school, talk about how we're going to move forward with that. But I hope to start a nice back and forth between the SAC and a representative from that 6th grade team.
Invite them to the meeting.
Yeah, I will.
Good.
And then teen mental health first aid, I just added this. Through the hard work of high school counselor Michelle Minamy, Hopatcong has been awarded the TMHFA grant, the Teen Mental Health First Aid Grant. This is a training program for teens brought to the United States by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing in partnership with the Born This Way Foundation, and it teaches teens in grades 10 through 12 how to identify, understand, and respond to signs of mental health and substance use challenges in their friends and peers. The grant will involve student and staff training as well as parent information sessions. And I wanted to share a couple Mr. Gruenfelder items that we talked about recently. So one of the things is Mr. Gruenfelder shared with me, and Mr. Gruenfelder, if you want to jump in and fill in any gaps here, you can. Shared with me a way that we could save some money, potentially. We're anticipating that we may have maybe north of a 15% increase in our state health benefits premium. I had seen originally maybe it was going to be 9, maybe 11, maybe 12. It seems to rise every time I look at a new article. And Mr. Gruenfelder, you found one that was 15 point something. Now, if that happens, that'll be crippling for a lot of our teachers that are dealing with a 9% inflation and now having to pay more for their health insurance premiums. Certainly would be crippling for us as a school district that pays a large portion of those benefits. It's also sort of ironic, given that we were given a 1 month premium holiday last year, which seems to really be strange now in hindsight. But in trying to save money, Mr. Gruenfelder had mentioned self-insuring at one point and had shared now this most recent thing from Brownstone, which is a way that we could potentially see some more stability of our premiums and not see these huge spikes. And I have reached out to a rep from them, and we'll be meeting with them next week, and I hope to be able to share one thing, good, bad, or indifferent on them. Brownstone.
I think that's tremendous, and I commend you for doing that. Perhaps if that meeting proves fruitful, we can at that point send information out to the other members of the board so they can get a chance to take a look at it as well.
Sure. I actually have printed it out. It's in my office, so I have one copy. I can pass it around in a little bit. And then the last thing, there was some, I promise this at the end of my report, it's just this is also committees for us, so I wanted to share a bunch and then you can share with me your thoughts later in the meeting. We had a little bit of a robust back and forth via email on painting the parking spaces. in the end, I think we agreed that students are gonna paint the parking spaces. But, and that's exciting, I think it's exciting.
Very exciting.
But also, Mr. Gruenfelder had mentioned to me, what would happen if we had businesses pay a fee for the year to have their logo on a parking space, which to me, so I made a dorky little flyer because, I don't know, it was kind of calming for me to make this.
I thought it was good.
So, Mr. Gruenfelder, because I had no idea, I had asked how much would that cost. We had mentioned the $300 a year, I think he threw out, and we could even charge $25 to have a student design a logo for the. I think it's a fun idea. I only had two kind of concerns on it. The first being, I guess, would businesses want to do that if there was going to be a car on top of it? Like how? I hope that they would want to do it, but I guess we'll never really know until we try it. And then the other part was, how do we as a board determine who we might not want to advertise? I won't say a name specifically, but like, I don't know, marijuana.com. That's one I know we'll all agree on, so that's why I mentioned it, but I don't know if there is such a thing. But we'd have to kind of work together, because I don't want to be seen as biased, not allowing certain advertising, but certainly we're not going to allow a lot of advertising.
So do you want, and I'll have to check, some boards do have a policy on this with criteria of certain businesses that aren't allowed. So for example, drug paraphernalia tends to be one of those that is not permitted, so we can look into. I don't know if you do or don't have that policy, but some boards do.
Like a factory.
Fine institution. I don't want to slam any companies in.
So can I ask, so a couple questions, right? So the students are paying to have their parking lot painted. Like that's a fundraiser for what the class is. That's what the whole parking lot.
Oh, for
painting
the kids,
is.
yes.
For the kids, it's a fundraiser. I love the idea of anybody advertising, but we're again in direct conflict with boosters who ask for local businesses to pay money to advertise already within the school district. So like the Chiefs, like the tribe, the signs around the field and stuff like that.
Okay.
And that's a fundraiser specifically for the school boosters, so I worry about, and I'm not saying that advertising is not always a good thing. I just worry that we would be in direct conflict with another school organization that's already trying to raise money independently from school funded money. That's the only reason I would hesitate to do that program, because we are then we're now splitting our monies between a school booster organization. That's the only reason I wouldn't want to do that.
No, that's an excellent point, and I threw out the idea of having the youngsters paint effigies of the board members.
Well, then bring it on, you know, that's fine with me, right?
Can't imagine what
That
you
would
and I would look like.
that would be my only hesitation to that program, is just because of the direct conflict with some of the other organizations.
Yeah,
That's
because
all.
when I saw that idea, I said, oh, we should rent spaces, and I'm like, I think there are some
The
but that's
boosters.
what it is,
The
so
boosters.
yeah.
Yep.
Cheer.
So we're
I know it's not the intent of anyone to step on toes, so.
I know that, and that's
Yeah.
why I just wanted to mention it before we thought about it more deeply, that's all.
Could we, is it possible to try a pilot program?
I know I just saw the email today from the Chiefs boosters, Cheryl Latito, saying, please advertise on our space for the Chiefs boosters, so, I don't know. I would be hesitant to say yes to that, because I think that we are in direct conflict with them
I
already.
think that's.
Well, then it would behoove us to look for sponsors that are not currently advertising in our space, and these other spaces.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
for example, I would suggest that the Rotary Club take out one and put its Rotary symbol in one of the parking spots.
You could do that through the Chiefs too, and benefit the boosters, so. You'd be willing to give
And
to
a
just
parking
the school,
spot.
but not to the boosters. Well, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm open to everything, I'm just cautious about stepping on toes.
There's always a theory that some businesses may want to specifically help the Chiefs cheer in football. Versus they may want to do something else to the district themselves in general.
So yeah, you can differentiate that way, this money would, it is a little.
And they do a sign along the football, the big sign along the football fence, and maybe parking spots would be something different they might want to play with.
Right.
really hard.
Idea fix.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to know what might really be a big sell and what might be. I really don't know. I might, if you want to think about it, we can revisit it.
Yeah, I think
If you want
revisit
to
it, I
talk
just don't
a little bit, I want to go into a little bit more detail about what goes on how one goes about doing painting a parking spot. Just minor discussion.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a little concerned about how it gets done, because if you put like too much paint on it, then it becomes slippery when wet. So you can't use enamel paint, although that was, sorry?
I think that's a rock and roll
Bon
out.
Jovi.
Sorry.
Sorry, whatever.
I'm a New Jersey kid.
Slippery, well, yes, it is. Yeah. Now I know what you're talking about. It's like, where the hell did you come up with that nonsense? So that's a concern. So I'm suggesting, of course, you can't use enamel paint. That's gotta be one of the rules.
You had asked me about a couple different things, and I did go and I asked Matt.
Oh, okay.
And there were specific reasons he chose that this was decided on.
But it doesn't say, there's nothing in the suggestion that you cannot use an enamel paint. You can use enamel paint.
Wow.
And I'm saying you don't want to use
No,
enamel paint.
Well, I think they're using all latex.
Latex can be enamel.
I don't know. That's not my.
Well, frankly, I would suggest you use stains instead of paint.
Well, I asked about that.
And what did he say?
And here's the reason.
Okay.
Because using the specific type of paint that they're using is intended to power wash off. And if it stains, you'd have to actually paint over it. So that's what I was told. They're
Okay.
power washing over it.
Yeah, but that's why I also suggested that before they begin painting, they put down a layer of that black paint that they usually put on top of parking spots. When you paint your own driveway,
Like a sealer.
like a sealer, right? Exactly. So you first do that, and then you paint whatever you want.
I
This way
did
you-
take
No, we
their
want the
suggestions.
paint
Okay, good.
So,
Sorry.
We wanna be careful.
They have to be approved.
They have to be approved.
Yeah.
The type of paint they use has to be approved.
Well,
Well, everything
Everything
that they
has
put
to-
on there, their
Oh, the
design
graphic
has to be
itself.
approved.
Yeah.
It can't be
Oh, yeah,
anything,
I
you
get
know.
it.
you care less.
As far as I'm concerned, the kids should do whatever they want. Maybe I'm becoming too liberal, I guess.
Aren't there brands of paint that have special non-slip properties in
Yes.
that they incorporate
You put
some
in
sand?
it.
Sand paint.
Sand.
Sand paint.
I would
I don't know,
appreciate
I don't know.
There was such a thing.
Sand
Let's
paint?
go back to the email from Matt and then we'll.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw an email from Matt. Did you send me an email from Matt?
I didn't see it, I just.
I don't think, I
emailed.
No,
talked
I
to
don't
Matt,
think-
You
and
just
I
talked to him.
wrote back to him.
Right.
In the end, yeah, in the end, we agree it's a
It's
great
not a big
idea to
deal. It's
do
just,
it.
I'm concerned about safety as far as the enamel is concerned. That's really important, that no enamel.
And then,
Just throw some sand
I only
in.
know about enamel on my teeth.
Glitter sand.
I don't know if I have any left on my teeth. I've been brushing them so long.
There was something important I wanted to say.
Did you finish teen mental health?
I did, but there was one, so I wanted to kick over to Jeff just for a quick second, because there was the discussion of RFP, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about it. So, banking, we've had many conversations with different board members, certainly I think every committee, including Mr. Gruenfelder, has touched this in some way, the concept of banking. So, Jeff has been working with different banks, trying to come up with an RFP. And Jeff, do you want to give an update on the timeline for that and your most recent conversations with some of them?
So there is a RFP that we published for banking and financial management services. The closing date is September 9th for institutions to respond to the RFP. That will give us time during our September committees to review proposals and then determine whether or not we want to accept any of those proposals at our September meeting or reject them and go back out. I have had several institutions already reach out with questions. We'll be setting up individual Zoom sessions with them to provide them with data and also answer questions that they may have specific to the RFP. 3 institutions have already asked for an extension of the deadline for September 9th. I'll defer to each of you on that. Their reasoning is they want additional time to put forward the best proposals. If we extend the deadline past September 9th, it means two things. One, we have to publish a new public notice, not a big deal, extending the time frame of it. But two, it would mean that the proposals would not be back in time for September committees, and therefore I would not feel comfortable making any recommendation for the September meeting. I'll leave that up to all of you. But like I said, so far, 6 institutions have reached out in regard to that RFP.
So I have 2 questions. One, what institutions are?
I would prefer not to say that
Okay, that's
because
fine,
I
that's
don't
fine.
want
The
to
other one
omit
is
anyone.
about the RFP itself. When I used to do RFPs, I remember our council used to tell us you cannot have individual meetings with prospective vendors. That you had to basically answer all questions at one time amongst all of them.
So this is not a bid, this is a request for proposals. So
Yeah, right.
they have questions about the proposal itself, the RFP itself. So we're simply answering any questions that they
Do
have.
you share all questions and answers?
Yes,
with all of
there's
them?
one document that will be shared out with
all
everybody
of
with
them.
all the questions.
Okay. Counselor, that's
That's
suitable?
fine, so this is an RFP for professional services.
Yep.
You're allowed to have individual meetings, allowed to have individual interviews. If there's questions about the RFP, then yes, you do have to put in one document and share it with everyone.
Fine.
But
Okay.
you want to do a question answer, but obviously if they have general questions about like the district, things like that, those are fine. But if it's specifically about the big documents, then you don't want to create an advantage for one over the other.
Okay.
Correct.
By the way, I'm okay with extending it. Till which, 3 weeks?
So, I'm sorry.
Jeff, 3 weeks? How long did they want to extend it?
I think they want at least until the end of September to respond. 2 of them have said until the end of
Well,
September
what
to respond.
say you? How do you feel about it?
Look, given the financial market that we're in, the fact that interest rates may go up again, there is an advantage to us
Delay.
in this market to delay a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want, from our perspective, I don't want an institution to feel rushed where they don't put forward the best proposal that's most advantageous to us in the long term.
Okay, so fine. So you're asking us to basically make a decision now as to whether or not to extend it or not?
Well, we can make the decision now, we can make the decision at the end of the month, at the next public board meeting. If you all want to make a decision now,
But we're not voting on it.
We can.
We're usually looking for guidance.
I just need some guidance,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I just need some guidance, and then I would,
Oh, okay.
I would publish an amendment
Yeah.
to the public notice.
Yeah.
If we're going to get superior responses from these institutions, then I'm in favor of extending the deadline.
Yeah, me too.
Have you gotten any completed, bit? Okay.
No,
We just sent it out.
yeah, it just went out the end of last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
then
can
you want to- so you-
we
so
get a
about a
copy of the
month.
RFP?
You gave them.
It's on our website, but I'll send everyone the direct link to it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jeff, can you explain exactly what the RFP is for?
Sure, so the RFP is asking for a number of different things. It is asking for our financial depositories of record. It is asking for all of the financial services that we undertake with regard to our checking accounts, our savings accounts, our investment accounts, local branches, products, fees, services, interest rates that are charged to us and the like, along with cash management options that their individual firms provide.
And then, who do we bank with now?
We bank with a number of different
Okay.
institutions. Fulton Bank is our current general fund financial institution. We also do business with Valley National, Santander, PNC Bank. So we have a number of different accounts, scholarship accounts, athletic accounts, through different institutions.
And then all of those institutions would also, if they wanted, put in.
Every one of those institutions has the opportunity to participate, and then, we published a public notice
Okay.
in our 2 newspapers of record that the Board of Education uses, announcing that RFP as well.
And JPM is going to be part of this too, right?
They are one of the ones that reached out.
Jeff, do you want to just give a quick update on that science lab?
Yeah. So
Like making a lot of progress.
yeah. So science lab, we continue to work forward with the science lab at the high school. You know, the pandemic put a big kibosh on both material availability, but also skilled trades. We had some quotes come back in the multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to just do the plumbing alone. And we're talking about water, gas, and we're doing the electric in-house. So we're making progress. We're moving forward on that front. The prices are not what we all are used to. They're out of whack, but they're less than the $284,000 quotes that I got before. While we're talking about money, I'm going to give you one because it's going to be on this month's agenda. Our oil tank, our primary oil tank at the high school, 20,000 gallon tank, failed its pressure test. All right, that means that tank has to be replaced. It is an underground tank. The replacement tank right now is going to be a 10,000 gallon tank because I can't get 20,000 gallon tanks. But the cost to remove the existing, decertify it, backfill, put the new tank above ground, fence it, do the connections and all the work under cooperative bids is $300,000.
No.
We gotta sell a lot of parking
Now,
spots.
this is something that we already had on our capital list that we talked about last month and the month before that we were working towards, but the prices are just, they're astronomical. So this is state contract, and this is the best price that we can get right now on that. The heating season starts October 15th, and we have to have oil for the building in order to turn the heat on. Let me go to Jerry and then I'll go here.
You mentioned that we are unable to get a 20,000 gallon tank. If we're going to incur the cost of removing the existing tank, and then installing a new tank, would it make any sense, just to satisfy my curiosity, to put in 2 10s?
So what we're going to do is when we design it, we've already done the specs to have 2 10s side by side. We're going to, because we know we can get 1 10 right off the bat, we're going to put the 10 in and order it with the goal of adding a second 10 next to it, having the plumbing and everything done as our ability allows for.
I'm giving you the finger.
Okay, wait.
I like that one better.
Quick question though, if you're doing that, doesn't that imply that you only need 10,000 to begin with?
No, what it means is we just have to fill the
Fill it up
tank
more
more
often.
frequently.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long does 20,000 last?
So 20,000 gallon tank allows us during the peak of the season to go about 23 days.
Oh,
So we'll be looking at 11 to 12 days between fill-up.
Blankets, lots of cheap blankets.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Yep.
Can you lock in an oil price already?
So we use state port contracts, so we pay port price plus a markup fee, and then we lock in by pre-buying. So all of our tanks right now are topped off for the winter, with the exception of that tank at the high school. It's topped off to half its level. Included in that bid is pumping that tank out and then transferring it to the new tank, so that we don't lose any of the value of that oil that's already there.
We're not gonna have to do any soil remediation.
No, there's no soil remediation. I mean, the stupid thing is, besides the price, when you look at it, it's actually cheaper to remove the tank than it is to fill it and decommission it, because the cost of the materials to fill it is actually more than excavating it and removing it. But, silver lining, if you want to call it that, by moving the tank above ground, it will save us almost $9,000 a year in annual tank inspection costs by moving the tank above ground.
so
Do you have to
we'll
use
get that
different
money
type
back
of
in
oil?
About 30 years.
No,
So your insurance should go down too then, right?
yeah, that 9 is included in the insurance and the
Okay,
inspections.
okay.
Yep.
A long shot.
Mm-hmm.
The difficulty with the tank, is there any possibility that all or part of it might be covered by insurance?
No. It's, that tank is over 35 years old. Yeah, it has long outlasted its lifespan. It's one of the reasons why we had it on our projects list to replace anyway, because we knew we needed to start to plan for those things. And as luck would have it, Mother Nature delivered.
And one thing that I'm in the process of doing is forming the Hopatcong Education Association. And since that's completely devoid of the Board of Education and the Department of Education, I'm going to be looking at buying oil futures, because had we done that 2 years ago, the price per barrel was $20. I think it's currently trading in the $70 to $80 range.
$76 a barrel right now is the futures price for February of 23 right now.
And Counselor, that has nothing to do with the board, it's private organization, with no interface with the board, and I don't have to worry about state or federal regulations. And since it's a nonprofit, I don't have to allow those armed IRS agents to come in and mess up their money.
Maybe the name of the Hopatcong Education Association is already taken, but.
Figgy's Foundation, right?
Oh, Foundation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then one other, while we're here to hit on it, you know, we worked really hard on our bus fleet and getting things accomplished. Bus number 8 out of 9 arrived today.
Yes!
Bus number 9 arrives at the bus company where we purchased the dealer on Sunday. It'll be prepped, inspected, and delivered at the end of this week, which means our initial proposition when we purchased everything was that these 2 buses wouldn't be here until October, and we would be leasing 2 buses for September and October. We're going to be saving about $10,000 in lease costs because all of the fleet will be on site.
They're pretty.
Where do we
They are pretty.
They're right behind the high school.
Yeah,
They're really beautiful.
So when are we taking a field trip?
Tomorrow, the company will be here to reline that upper parking lot so we can set out the parking locations. The buses are under camera watch, so that's part of our security plan. And we're working on our snow removal options to comply with the snow regulation for the state of New Jersey for removing snow and ice off of large vehicles as well. So we're moving forward. We have 9 drivers hired or will have completed their training and their licensing by the end of August. So we're in good shape to move forward. And the Transportation Department has been working incredibly hard on getting routes put together and accommodating all of our students who need special transportation as well. So they've really been working hard.
Do we have substitute drivers?
We have a handful of substitute drivers as well.
Okay, that is my report, and I apologize for its length.
I appreciate all the details. Is there a motion to accept the superintendent's report?
I'll move. I'll second.
Please call a roll.
Seconded by Ms.
I'm
Mulan.
sorry, there's discussion first, right?
Yeah, we kind of did discussion throughout.
No, but
Yeah.
there's the one point I have to make.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, you did.
Okay,
Sorry.
is there a discussion?
Yeah, right. Is that- that's-
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so on the mission and vision statements,
Yes, sir.
I object to the fact that the superintendent sets these things.
I don't.
We had an
We have to do our own.
committee.
We do.
I don't.
We did.
We don't have a vision statement.
Well,
We do.
You do. All I did
We
was
do?
read the one we did last year.
We had a vision statement last year.
Yeah.
It was one of your.
I swear I don't remember
You
this.
were.
Okay.
I'm sure I was here. I know I was here.
You were here. I'm sure you
You were
were
here.
here.
And this,
It
and
was
this
one
vision
of the
statement
ones.
is what we accepted.
So, Phil, I recall.
So.
Must be you're losing your
I
memory.
don't
But
deny it.
but
I'm
to
just
clarify,
I just want to clarify.
I definitely do not.
Okay, what about the mission statement?
I definitely don't.
No, we.
This is the mission statement we put together.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
and you
sorry,
actually
I
had
played a part.
feedback.
I played a part.
No,
in
no,
that
no,
decision.
absolutely.
Phil
You
actually had
definitely,
feedback.
yeah, we changed some things
Oh my
based on
God.
things
Based on
you
your
said.
opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said corrected.
So there was an ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
We came up with
I remember
ideas,
this.
presented it to the board had input.
Oh,
we
yeah, no, I
revised
know we went
again.
crazy with it down there. We made some changes. Scott basically said, Phil, you rewrite it. I'm like, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's it.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion?
Oh, no.
Oh,
Okay, Jeff, please call the roll.
Ms. Falcone Schubert.
Yes.
Mr. DeStefano.
Yes.
Mr. Falcone.
Yes.
Mr. Gruenfelder.
Yes.
Ms. Goulan.
Yes.
Ms. Gravatt.
Yes.
Ms. Turkington.
Yes.
Ms. Polachena.
Yes.
And Mr. Francis.
Yes.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is public comment.
Anyone?
Maybe we got some emails?
We have
Okay.
anybody?
I'm just refreshing. I don't have anything at this moment. Let me just refresh again.
Okay. Does anybody have to do anything for that?
No, I have that.
The next item on the agenda is our board goal presentation.
Okay, you all have a paper copy of this, and it seems, it's a little bit silly to present this here, being that there's no one here. And being that I don't believe anyone can really see it on this camera. I think they can really see your face, but I think this won't be very clear. So what we'll do, Jeff, maybe when we post the final minutes, we can post this as an attachment, so I don't have to be goofy up here, if you're all okay with that.
I love it.
Okay, thanks.
That's fine.
So, we can keep this screen, because it's fun.
Can we just take a quick, bathroom break? Does anybody
Good
object to
idea.
that?
Oh, I don't know.
We're here.
I think that requires a
Motion?
vote.
Yeah, I need a motion.
Yeah.
I motion to take a bathroom break.
I need a second.
Second.
Do you want to go through the logistics?
Discussion.
I guess you can do it all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we should vote on the bathrooms
Oh,
separately.
Okay.
roll call.
That was, I said the wrong words, I guess, I should just
Before the minutes, it might be a motion for a 5-minute.
5-minute break.
recess.
Yeah.
Is this being publicized on?
Yes, it is
We're
live
still
stream.
live.
We
Yeah.
are still live. Please remember, even though we're,
Film.
Yes, sir.
This is not part of the meeting. But you remind me.
Hey, Jeff, are you still there?
I am.
I'm getting old.
Jeff, I have a question for you on the oil price. You said it's port price plus the markup. What's the markup?
I gotta pull it up. I think it's like 2 cents.
Yeah, I guess the question more was like, is that why the markup? Is that just standard practice?
Yeah, that's basically that's the state contract in terms of the delivery fee, basically, to get it here.
Let me go to, is it Durban Avenue?
You got it.
I'll by there. I'll go to Durban. Where in Durban?
So if you're facing the front entrance.
Right.
It's to the left as you exit.
Okay, so if the teachers see me out there tomorrow, tell them it's good. Because I want to take a picture of it and bring it to my next Rotary meeting. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's kind of weird, yeah. Okay. Don't tell me my bathroom break is over.
No, but the clock's ticking.
live, folks, as we come in, so just be mindful.
Thank you.
Nicole,
Thank you.
I'll
So
need
not for London.
A little bit is okay.
I mean,
yeah?
it's still cool to be invited to London. That really is.
That's exciting. That information needs to be shared.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Thank
exciting.
you. Yes. That is. That really is exciting.
Would you,
What did you
Just helping me out.
no. So are you guys doing the beautification stuff during the week?
Yeah,
So
then
the
you-
27th is not happening?
Yeah, no, after the meeting, I'll tell you kind of like what our plan is and if anybody's around.
We're
We are
also
both
just
off,
telling them, you know,
so
I'm
it just
not
kinda
trying to
makes
get
sense, like,
anybody
Oh, no.
and it
to,
needs like a lot.
to be
Like,
let out.
And I just thought,
Unless
it's
I
easier
can
for, like,
pick
us just to get in
specific
there and do
matters.
it the first
And again, I
time,
think
kind of
what we're
prep it
saying,
for
I
the
just want
next
to bring that to
time.
your attention, right, for the distinction.
Yes, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
get
can,
that.
Huh?
Oh, we
No,
have
no,
no.
resolution,
yeah,
that's
oh,
what I.
because they're online. Can we have a motion to
Now we can-
reconvene?
I move to reconvene.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we are in our open session and we are going to present the board goals.
Okay, so with Mr. Francis would have presented this with me. Being that he is joining us virtually, Nicole is going to be doing this with me. So you each have the presentation in front of you, yes? Everyone has a copy?
Yep.
Okay. Those online, do you have a copy?
I think they were asleep.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
No, I'm not asleep, I'm here.
Do you want us to email you a copy?
If you don't mind.
Sure.
Are they the same, wait, are they the same as last year's?
This
Are
is
there
the
any
whole
differences?
presentation that was
I have a whole
made.
presentation.
I understand
Yeah.
that.
Okay, Nicole, if you don't mind starting,
Sure.
I'll send the copies to Joe and Kelly.
Sure. Okay, so these are the first page are the goals that we created together for the 2021-2022 school year. So to start, we'll just review those. There were 5, and I believe when we did this originally, we kind of tried to say like we wanted each goal to kind of represent a bucket, whether it was academics, community, climate, and things like that. So the first goal is the Board of Education is committed to supporting programs and initiatives that overcome learning loss and help students to succeed academically. When we're done going over the individual goals, we'll show you how each of these goals have been addressed throughout the year. 2, the Board of Education will support programs and initiatives which improve school climate, student engagement, student wellness, and ensure school safety and security. Goal 3, the Board of Education will continue to investigate alternate means of fiscal responsibility to provide students with a thorough and efficient education in a financially responsible manner. 4, for the benefit of students, the Board of Education will communicate and foster relationships with the larger community to create learning opportunities and partnerships. And 5, the Board of Education will continue to evaluate and implement campus enhancements that support student learning and their academic experiences. Does everybody remember making these goals?
I do.
Okay, so it's that time of year where we want to reflect on the goals to see how we did. And Joe put together a great presentation that provides us with some examples and evidence how each of these goals were implemented.
So as we go through it, it may be helpful, and this isn't included in my presentation, but it may be helpful to, in your own minds, kind of bifurcate what would be a board goal and what would be a superintendent goal. The reason I mention that is because we don't have superintendent goals yet. I would like to hear what the board goals are in the end here, try to generate some ideas and begin a conversation on superintendent goals, but I can imagine what might be a good idea is we might find kind of broad ideas, but then specific measuring points that you might want to give me as a superintendent goal in order to match the board goal. It's just an idea, but it's something to kind of keep in our minds as we're doing these board goals. Is it worth changing the board goal, or do we want to make that a superintendent goal? So just a thought. Goal 1, I'll move through this fairly quickly, and this won't be new information to any member of the board because I have given it to you in a different format for the most part. Goal 1, IXL. We do have IXL for, for English, Math, Social Studies, and Science for the entire year. We're going to have it for Math and ELL for the next 4 years, and it provides analytics data, allows kids to get remediation and also acceleration at their own individual level, which is, we always talk about differentiated instruction and meeting the needs of individual students. This actually will do that. Paper is something that came out of the SAC committee, provides that live 24/7 tutoring for students, and it'll be for students starting in grades 1, because I'm not sure kindergartners will use it, grade 1 all the way through grade 12. Also, RTI, and I mentioned some of this in my superintendent's report, we streamlined the RTI process this year, and RTI is a process by which students who are struggling academically are provided formal additional supports through referrals. So if they're struggling, they're basically put out like an improvement plan for 6 to 8 weeks. They meet with a committee, with staff, with parents. They basically have an improvement plan that then they create supports for them. And then they meet again in 6 to 8 weeks' time, and they ascertain whether they've kind of gotten back on track. Next is Performance Matters. So because we haven't had state testing for a few years, we still want to know how our students are doing. And so we have benchmark assessments. We have 3 a year in ELA and math. They're optional in other subject areas, and other subject areas do use them. But they tie to every standard within ELA and math per grade level. So we can see students that are, if you're struggling, where are you struggling? What particular standard are you on grade level? Orton Gillingham, this is something that I want to keep shouting from the rooftops because I'm so excited about it. It's a partnership we have with Fairleigh Dickinson University, and we, through the support of the board, we used initiative money to pay for 8 teachers to go through this program. And now they're certified, specific specialty cert in reading that helps students with dyslexia and a variety of other reading issues.
And parents look for this type of certification. They ask, do you use Orton Gillingham? So this is a good sell. Yeah.
Many parents in the past have used it as fuel to get an out-of-district placement. So it's kind of nice that we have it in district.
You do a good job.
And then pods. We have provided pods to students. We actually had 10 teachers provide pods over this past summer, the summer that is ending now. And we've also used pods to comply with S905 legislation in situations which require compensatory services for special needs students. And lastly, on the next page, you know about preschool expansion. We've talked about it several times. By educating our 3 and 4-year-old students with a high-quality program that is required through the preschool expansion grant, we hope to narrow the preparedness gap for kindergarten so that our students are better prepared. And tangentially, it also helps parents economically because they go back to work. So in each of these goals, I want to share our successes, but I don't want to overlook areas that we need to continue to push forward. I'm not trying to trick anybody. So areas for continued growth, we need longitudinal data on this improvement. This will come in part from state testing, from viewing progress from students with IEPs and meeting their IEP goals. Students have shown growth this year, but they're still significantly behind state averages, behind state benchmarks. And while many districts throughout the state are still experiencing significant learning loss, I think it will be helpful for us to track our data this next year compared to similar school districts of similar makeup, socioeconomic status. Because then we can see, even if we're still behind, we can see, are we on track with comparable schools? Or are we making less progress toward our goal?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Do we know to what extent the new products that you've been mentioning here, including paper and performance matters and the YXL, to what extent these have been implemented and to what extent they are successful?
Yeah,
how do we measure success as to whether or not these things are doing their job?
Yeah, I think, well, I'll answer it 2 ways. One, with Performance Matters, all of our ELA and math teachers use it. And they use it in their SGOs. All of them do.
Okay.
And I can see from all their SGO work that they are getting their intended goals, they're meeting their target goals based on the preparedness groupings that they set up for the SGOs. overwhelmingly, almost 100% of them are pushing the kids forward with adequate progress. But I only say that within the context of they're making lots of progress, but they're still far behind. Does that make sense?
No, I get that, that's
Okay.
fine. All
Paper,
I'm interested in is whether or not we can measure the individual products that we're using, and are they being, not just being used, but are they doing the job?
Yeah. So I can
Getting
tell-
what we paid for.
Yeah, I can't give you anything on paper because we haven't started yet. But
IX
IXL, I could give you, analytics data on IXL.
I'd rather, frankly, I'd rather wait till the end of the first semester.
I can do that with performance
Next year to see whether or not.
IXL, yeah.
I agree, we just began, so.
Yeah.
But my point is that we have a means to measure it.
I think that's Scott. Scott, yeah?
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing real quick. Would you mind just sharing with everybody, because I don't know who can hear me and who can't. When we had discussed originally with these board goals, at the end of the day, the goals that we have we should be able to reflect on every agenda what piece of the goal that's going to achieve, right? So to Phil's point there about following the goals, each month when we have a meeting and we put together the agenda, next to the agenda item, we're going to put what goal that pertains to and how it, so you follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, remember how we talked through that?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about that last month, yeah.
Good idea, Scott.
I think that's a great idea.
And before we move on to, maybe, was it discussed that the idea that we're going to look at these goals, modify them, not make major changes, and as we're kind of going through them, think about that measurable component that you're talking about?
Well,
Was that mentioned?
okay, let me just say one point. Usually, when you get down to the measuring thing, that's not at goal level, that's not done at goal level, it's done at objective level.
Yeah.
So when the superintendent says, we should come up with superintendent goals.
That would be the objective, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them superintendent goals, so I'd call them superintendent objectives, and then you get into the measuring aspects. And then frankly, this is something that he can do himself. and should-
No,
and should do
I
himself.
will, but I will want your input.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I mean, you flesh it out and then
Yeah.
we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, I think we're, yeah.
Yeah.
Goal 2,
Just hide that.
now, we mentioned Tri-County. That was, well, no, we didn't mention Tri, we mentioned the center.
Yes.
Tri-County was we've used them as an intermediary for students that are in crisis. Put another way, let's say a student's in crisis, they maybe have suicidal ideation, or we may have considered sending them to the hospital. We'll send them to Tri-County as a second opinion to make sure that they get some services, rather than, it can be very, there are certainly times that a student should go directly to the hospital. There's other times that saying a student in crisis directly to the hospital is really detrimental to them. So we use Tri-County as another support. Tri-County this year, they provided us in-house counseling, which we paid for in part from ESSER money. We were able to provide 63 total in-house counseling sessions for at-risk students. So basically, these are students that would have gone and seen a counselor outside of school, but maybe didn't have the means to do it, or the way to get to a counselor, or the insurance. And we were able, through our work with Tri-County, to have them here on campus, and I think we made some significant impact there.
In-house counseling.
Yeah. Now, the Center for Prevention, we just mentioned that, so I won't keep talking about that. And then guest speakers. After not having them for a while before, because we couldn't have people come in, we did bring back people like Keith Hawkins, who has come many times, Dwayne West, and they share kind of social emotional learning messages, anti-bullying messages, and have really efforted to bring a positive climate to the school. In-house transportation, there's a picture of me on the new bus. So it's important that this board remember, and I know you do know this because we've talked about it so many times, in-house transportation is not just an effort to save money. We spent about $1 million on transportation last year. We're going to spend a lot of money, almost the same amount of money this year, but it's also in the best interest of students in that we have more control over the safety, the punctuality, the security of those bus routes. And that for many students is the first impression they have when they go to school. And so we want to make that a great experience for them.
Those of you who did not have the opportunity to experience bus delays, really, this put a lot of parents at ease. Like you had the normal things in the beginning of the school year where a kid like forgot to get off at the stop, but that like continued all year as far as timing. And Joe and Art would go down to Byram and talk, but that's really all they could do. It's just talk because we were at their mercy. So I think this is going to be a great thing for our schools.
And I can say that last year, we experienced transportation delays on 100% of our school days. Every day, we had at least one bus delay at one school or another. The majority of time, it was impacting our elementaries at Tulsa and Durban in the late afternoon, where we had staff having to stay late and parents waiting, kids being at the school for half hour after their buses should have departed. And then in addition to them not having drivers and routes being skipped and not being able to send buses out. So every day last year, there was at least one, but I'm talking about multiple transportation issues every single day last year that we are, with this, looking to solve.
Plus, we had problems getting kids to
Athletic events, field trips, and the like, yeah.
And basketball.
Yeah.
Do you know, and it's kind of an aside here, but I have a coworker who lives in Union. Their school days were actually shortened.
Is that right?
Their bus runs?
Because of bus routes. Like,
Wow.
we either have to dismiss you early because of bus issues, or we have to have a delayed opening because of bus issues. So knock on wood, we didn't have that, but it's crazy how statewide, nationwide this issue has been. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing.
So outside partnership and clubs returned this year, thank goodness, including some of the ones that I really enjoyed. And to Jerry's question, one grants I actually wrote. The partnership with the National Winter Activity Center is one of those I was happy to bring back. We also had that partnership with the Elite Prep Academy for the Orchestra Club, which was great. They also donated $35,000 worth of instruments. And then the Rotary, and thank you to Phil, who's been such a champion of the archery program. We're happy to have that kick off this year. School climate remains an important issue. Surveys were collected this year from students, families, staff on school climate. Stakeholder meetings were held. In addition to the partnerships mentioned above, in-district solutions such as SEL days were formed. Now, again, areas for continued growth. There's again a need for longitudinal data on improvement, which will need to be tracked this year. This will be a big year for data because I think having students in more regularly and more testing at the state level, I think will just be more conducive to actual real data. Now, I take it back. Not to say qualitative data is not real. I mean, all these things that we're mentioning here, these partnerships, these programs, that's all real data that shows we're working on things, but it's not maybe the stats that some people are more comfortable with. So we have had some loss of some key staff members, and I want to be sensitive here because yes, we've had resignations and retirements, but we have had staff members pass away. We've had staff members we had to non-renew, unfortunately. And when those things happen, it does hurt morale and climate. And I certainly am aware of those things and aware that that's going to be a struggle for us. Lack of administrators' presence is something that presents a challenge, particularly at the middle school and high school, and we've talked about this as a team. And then COVID presented challenges in terms of students coming back in person after not having been there for a while, and it manifests itself in many ways, including anxiety, social pressures. So that's something to keep a lookout on for next year.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
about the lack of administrators? I mean,
Yeah.
in the high school, when you have the principal plus 2 additional administrators, I don't mean, they were shared responsibilities, but did that still seem to be?
Oh, it's a huge help.
A huge
No,
help,
yeah,
so where's the
still
lack?
in need.
I just want to, for a high school and a middle school, they generally have at least 2 full-time administrators.
Yes, I agree.
And ours do not. Now, this is not me having a conversation of, we need to put one in. We've kind of had that conversation, but I just mean to say, just because we decided not to do something, doesn't mean that challenge still doesn't exist there. And so, yeah, we try to come up with some creative ways through coordinators and other things like that. And but it's something that I have a real eye on, and it does require me to sometimes come and support, and I'm happy to do that. But
I just heard such, I mean, it seems like there was good vibes amongst the team of people, so I enjoyed.
I think it made a
having
big
that.
change from September to June.
Yes.
I think we saw a big shift of improvement in that area, but we still have ways to go.
That's important.
I think too, you have to remember when we started the school year in September, there were a lot of COVID
Oh,
guidelines.
absolutely.
Which I think administrators had to deal with the
Of course.
masking and,
Of
not
course.
that they were discipline issues, but I think there were a lot of other issues that we wouldn't normally see in the school year.
Yeah.
So hopefully starting the school year off differently will help.
You want to take all three?
Oh, sure. So instead of hiring a roving nurse, which would have been a full salary and benefits, we used Best Choice Nursing, and that saved us $20,000. Okay, we all know about Byron Bus. So we were saving money there. We are going to be releasing to buy, right? So we're investing in our district. We've had multiple finance committee meetings throughout the month. I believe there was more than one a couple of times.
Around budgets?
Yep. We've held special meetings, which were in the form of committee of the whole, that big meeting that we had in April. What are you rolling your eyes for over there? Where we talked about long-term financial planning, sustainability, including ideas of selling land and buildings. Tulsa Trail was a hot topic during that meeting. So we are constantly discussing these things together as a group and in the public, which I think a lot of people appreciate. Mr. Hallenbach is exploring shared services. You want to talk about that, Jeff?
We already have. We have a number of shared service agreements we have in place, not just with the town of Hopatcong, but with 3 other towns for our co-op vehicles. We purchase our fuel from their fuel depots so that we don't have to go to the private fuel market for those buses and vans. We purchase our salt from the town. The town helps out in large snowstorms with plowing. We have a shared service agreement for our baseball and softball fields. Very expensive piece of equipment to turn over and maintain those fields. Would not be practical for us to purchase it. We have a shared service agreement to pay them. They come and actually service those fields on a regular basis as well. So there's a lot of benefits to that, and we continue to share discussions about grants through the League of Municipalities and the state level on purchasing and sharing additional equipment that benefits the taxpayers, not just from a school tax standpoint, but from a town tax standpoint as well, when we can share equipment through grants.
Thank you. We have investigated consolidation and send-receive scenarios with different school districts. Joe really has taken the lead on this, and we are exploring all of our options. Basically, nothing is off the table, and our goal here is to be able to provide our students with the best education and do that in a financially stable manner. The next one is a tough one because unfortunately we've saved money because contracts for teachers were non-renewed. Nobody ever likes to see the loss of a teacher, and that kind of talks to the point that Joe had mentioned in number 2, where we're trying to improve student, school climate. So in one way, we benefited financially, but in many more ways, we've suffered loss there. Through the preschool expansion grant, we've been able to offset current salaries of staff members working with the preschool. And then most recently, our facilities director has gone part-time and saved us $60,000. We've been sponsored by an orthopedic institute. So that's one way that we've done some creative advertising in return for $3,000 in services, which would also be another great thing to look into to continue doing with other similar vendors. And then Mr. Hallenbach continues to work to trim costs through finding more efficient ways to accomplish the same tasks and negotiating with vendors and using state contracts.
Yeah, you wanna give your printer example? I was telling Nicole
Yes.
this the other day, of how you work the new printers in the district. The copiers,
Oh, the copiers.
sorry.
Oh,
No, that's okay.
that might be another sense
Those
of.
Xeroxes.
No, just
I was like, what?
just silly things. So, in an effort to reduce the amount of paper that we have on a regular basis, everybody's ID that gets you into the building also serves as what used to be known on many copiers as the old Auditron. It tracks your copies. It allows you to scan documents. It allows you to print. So our network is now set up because we have teachers that are shared amongst buildings. And we have central copiers and printers. Everybody doesn't have a printer in every single room where they can just print to. So I can print something from my office, go to a meeting at the middle school, scan my card at the copier, and my print job releases to me at the middle school where I'm at. So things don't print when you hit print. You actually have to release your print job so you don't forget about it. It might be confidential, it doesn't sit there and get wasted. And if within a certain time frame you don't release your print job, it just gets deleted and it doesn't get wasted. So we've tried to find ways to do that. We've reduced our copying costs. We've reduced our usage as an additional way to save resources, but also to leverage the technology that we have available to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The areas of continued growth, in my opinion, kind of, once we do this feasibility study, we're going to have a good idea of where the district needs to go. So the study needs to cover two important areas. The first one would be, would our district be able to vacate students in grades 2 through 3 from Tulsa and adequately fit them into another building through reconfiguration? And 2, might it be helpful to enter a send-relieve relationship with another school district to provide a better education for our students at a more reasonable and sustainable cost to the taxpayer?
And it's gotta be both, Nicole. Like I wanna just be really clear with it, because when our board talks about it, I'm talking more to the public now. I don't want people to think that we're just trying to save money, although we are. We also wanna provide a better education. So whenever we look at different things, we're looking for both and, and that's important for the public to know. We don't go for things, particularly regarding this type of send receive and consolidation and those types of conversations. If it just saves money and our kids get a worse education, there's no way this board would support that, and I certainly would never put it forward. So.
No, yeah, this kind of goes to what you were talking about earlier in my mind. I'm a visual person. With the curriculum, what is the old, what is the new? When we do that feasibility study, what are we currently working with? What would it look like if we stay as is, and what would it look like if we, make any changes?
Yeah.
Because we want the best for the students. And the last thing is to closely monitor the Tulsa roof and all the facilities to ensure that all students and staff are safe regardless of any efforts to save money. And on that one, Joe was just updating me that Tulsa has been evaluated all summer long. We have
Regarding the 4-letter words.
Yes, the dehumidification system in there. The roof is being monitored. So it is not just on our radar, but it's high up on the list. We do not want students.
And we're in a
or
better
staff.
and we're in a better place now than we were last year. So remember the things that we did. There's dehumidification systems in each room. There are a bunch of trees that were chopped down. The roof has been patched, and we had extensive air scrubbing and cleaning throughout that building. So, because some people have said to me, well, it's summer, it's hot again. It is hot again. But there's a bunch of safeguards that we've put in place that were not in place last year that I'm hopeful will prove beneficial. Keep going, Nicole, you're killing it.
Oh, number 4. Okay. COVID testing. We worked with the county office, the NJDOE, and outside vendors, including Rover Labs and LabQ, to provide free COVID testing for our staff. I think one of the great things that Joe, maybe Art, and even Jeff looked ahead, and they purchased the at-home kits when they were available, so if people needed to test, they had them here, and I think you even provided them to some families when they needed them, so I think that was great.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Jeff, can we be changing this so that the people, if
I don't
anyone?
think they can, we were saying, I don't think they can see anyway. I'm gonna put up, when we put the
This.
minutes up, I'll put up the whole.
You can't focus on the screen?
No, it's an autofocus camera. If I move it, then it doesn't.
There's no zoom?
No.
He's gonna upload this
No,
exact
no, I get that.
presentation.
In other news
Okay.
though, these
Oh, I was wondering what
microphones,
those were.
and there will be a camera back there, so then when we live stream, it's gonna actually, you'll hear it really well and you'll see it really well.
Nice.
So we're still working.
We're working on that.
On the old school stuff.
Okay, covert efforts and communication, we managed to keep the district open with minimal interruptions through the year and kept in close communication with parents regarding changing protocols. Everybody loved those emails. Committee of the Whole efforts, we had several committees of the whole in an effort to be more transparent and build trust in the community. And with that said, I think that we kind of all decided that there are reasons for Committee of the Whole and there are reasons for committees. So when it's necessary, we can switch back and forth to both. The recording of board meetings, I think, has been great for our community. We've began streaming meetings and archiving the board meetings on our website to increase community awareness of Board of Ed processes and school happenings. And just speaking to parents, I think they appreciate it because this is about the time where everybody's at their sporting events, so they can go home and, watch it at their leisure. Focus groups and Talk to Me Tuesdays. These initiatives represent an effort on the part of the board to increase community engagement and hear from stakeholders. So the focus groups are led by Jerry in this room during committee meetings. I had the opportunity to sit in on one of those, and then he reports back to Joe, and then Joe kind of looks through those notes and lets, follows up and things like that. And then every Tuesday after a board meeting, Joe sits outside and waves to people as they go by and chats them up.
And get hit by mosquitoes.
Sorry.
We've been working with Elite Prep Academy. Our efforts are underway to find opportunities to partner with Hudson Maxim School of Music and find ways to help each other, not just amicably, but coexist, but to thrive. I don't know if anybody's driven past there lately, but it looks very nice. They painted the outside, they put up some stone veneer, the sign changed, and they're working on the sign on the road. Rochkind Foundation, our students through this partnership now have the opportunity to pursue interest in construction. This is an example of partnering with the public, so this is for our CTE program. The Cosmetology Clinic, the students are servicing community members, particularly senior citizens, and have rave reviews and repeat clients. I believe Dr. Picarillo's also gotten a cut or two.
I'm not just the superintendent. I'm also a client.
The senior visit, our superintendent, the high school principal, and the high school band visited the senior center several times this year to give updates on the state of the schools and to entertain with performances. We have concurrent relationships with FDU, Seton Hall, SCCC, and we have added 13 new course opportunities for dual credit and now have about 14% of our students earning that dual credit. So I think that's great, really. What was that?
I'm just
okay.
mumbling, I just said it's helpful, that's all.
Okay, and then lastly, we had $50,000 in donations towards scholarships to our seniors for community organizations, reflective of their continued partnership we have with our community. Not last year, many more. We have an optics class that was run for free due to our partnership with SCCC. The teacher taught one period a day in Hopatcong High School all year long. We together as a board created a letter petitioning the state regarding our cuts. We had over 600 signatures. On social media, we continue to maintain accounts to engage the district in community news. Our superintendent has a podcast, which has been released twice a month to spotlight a student or staff member doing great things in the school. It's accessible on the school website. And we've been communicating with our town council, the superintendent, the BOE, and a business administrator have communicated with the mayor's office for shared services, big ideas, and strategies to support budget concerns and sustainability. I don't always get to go to those meetings, but the couple that I was at, they really were talking about the schools and how they can support us. So, and they've come to, the council members have been at our meetings recently too. So that goal, there are still some areas of continued growth. The live streaming of meetings, archive meetings, and Talk to Me Tuesdays, Mr. Gruenfelder's focus group, and a few single issue meetings throughout the year, particularly once we have a feasibility study, should help with continued improvement in this area. We're going to have a presence at the Town Park Days. We're adding the Beautification Days district-wide, and the State of the Schools meeting should also help. And then talks are now in the works to create a more professional podcasting set where we will do quarterly long form State of the Schools with the Superintendent, the BA, the BOE President, committee chairs, and special guests. So, work on your radio voices, friends.
Oh.
I love these photos, highlighting a lot of the things that we've been doing as far as community outreach. So we have our orchestra instructor, we have Mr. Olson at a football committee meeting. This was the DOE.
Yeah, state DOE and county DOE coming to visit us because Shauna was teacher of the year there.
There's an example of a beautification day over at Durban. This students gathering supplies for community outreach. We have the cosmetology class there, and I believe
That's the band at the senior center.
Yep, great.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Me, you, go.
You're doing so well.
Okay. So, near and dear to me is our beautification efforts. One of the frequently mentioned problems with facilities is that some of the areas around the campus have begun to look run down. Due to budget constraints, we are not always able to make big improvements, but we have sought out opportunities to use wraps to improve the look of the campus and improve morale at low cost. This has been seen when you come in the front driveway and see Home of the Chiefs on the fence and the direction map at the top of the driveway. If you flip over the next page, you'll see the pictures that were mentioned there. Security enhancements. We are very lucky to have Mr. Hallenbach here, who is our security guru. We have recently updated security cameras, access points for staff to enter the buildings with their IDs, and installed man traps in each building to prevent intruders from accessing the schools. Is that what you call that vestibule in the front? Okay. Presentation was recently made at the June BOE meeting together with the Hopatcong police. MOLD mitigation.
We talked about that.
Okay, done. The athletic training room is beautiful. I have the I have wrestling practice over there, so we kind of saw it come to fruition. So in response to the community concern, we voiced multiple athletic parenting meetings held by the superintendent. The athletic training rooms represent upgrade that will provide not only support for our student athletes, but a beautiful room at the front of the entrance outside of the gym doors, which will improve the overall look of the school. There's also a great space for our new athletic trainer.
It was a female.
Oh, we hired one. She's great.
Yeah.
So when you walk into the gymnasium, you see the wraps. There's the gym, I still call it the new gym, and then you have the athletic training room, and then you have the weight room. So it really is impressive.
Yeah,
And I have to say, every time somebody's visiting, they're always like looking in and peeking in and commenting on those things.
The
So
new
it's something
athletic
to be
trainer
proud of.
came from FDU, and she said, she goes, "This is nicer than we have at the college."
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tell your friends.
And our tennis courts have been updated, and we have pickleball as well. They were purchased through the last bit of the cell tower money and help to greatly improve our facilities, but also provide a needed resource for the community.
And you know, with the pickleball thing, when we had made the tennis court, because we had been talking to the senior citizens so much,
That's a
they
big
kept
thing with seniors.
asking, will there be pickleball? I didn't even know what pickleball was. And then when I started looking at it, and I think we asked them, right, Jeff, how much it would be? And they're like, it wouldn't really be any
It's just
extra,
little
we're
more
paying
lights.
them
It's a
already.
ball.
And so by just simply talking to the senior citizens, being able to provide a resource that they were really thrilled about. So
Do they use it?
Yeah, it gets a lot of use.
I hear they do. They haven't
Well,
invited me
that's-
to a pickleball game.
I just bought a set
Or
so
match?
we can try it out.
Pickleball match.
I've seen it done, I've not actually played it.
I'd like to play. If someone's watching, invite me. Teach me how to play.
So here are photos of all the things that we just mentioned. We are going to continue to make improvements considering the budget cuts, but it will be a challenge, so we're looking for creative ways to do that. Looking at ways to do community beautification days may be one solution that will help. And then the science lab at the high school should be complete by this summer, which will have a big impact, and Jeff already spoke about that.
So now when we're looking at the 22-23 goals, I have this last page has the exact same goals as before. That's not me saying that it should be the exact, but I think if we look at those as a starting place, then we can add a sentence, we can delete something from it, and we can use this as like our rough draft for making our improvements. And so I think now we can enter, Nicole, if you're comfortable, we can enter discussion.
Sure.
You want to take it from 1 and go down, or do you want to just have open?
Let's look at 1, and then we'll go down that way. So, the Board of Education is committed to supporting programs and initiatives that overcome learning loss and help students to succeed academically.
Next year, will we still be concerned with learning loss?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And will our Freedom to Learn, the new programs that we're looking at, the Freedom to Learn and the program with Mr. Zimmerman, they'll just continue to support that. And
Absolutely,
I don't
it's
think
tied
there's
directly to
any-
one.
Yeah, it's not even, I think we've already got that in place, and those, I think goal 1 is right on target to what we're looking at, with emphasis on the measuring of the results. I think that's the only thing.
Personally, I think all these goals are fine the way they are.
Yeah.
That's just my own opinion. I would like the word academically in bigger letters. Other than that, that's about it.
Right?
You know, one thing I think I'm sorry, go.
Well, I was just gonna say, if you look at goal number 1, when you read it, do you think it addresses all academic success, all academic, or just learning loss? Like, do you think it addresses all students, students who are on grade level, students who are above grade level, or no?
Well,
If you were to insert the word all,
Before students.
between help and students, then I think you would accomplish it.
help all students.
Yeah, because I think we can.
Or each student.
Well,
What if we just changed it to the,
help all students.
what if we said the Board of Education is committed to supporting all programs and initiatives as well as those that help to overcome learning loss and help students, as well as those that help? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
I
It
think-
might have to be 2 sentences, but
Well,
I know what
I
you're
mean, it
saying.
could be two, but if we, the Board of Education is committed to supporting all programs and initiatives. This will include specialized programs that help overcome learning loss, which will lead to, something along those lines, but I think that we don't really
Emphasis will
have
be
to.
placed on-
I'm okay with just the word all, if we don't wanna make it super
Board of
crazy.
Education is committed to supporting
The Board of
all
Edu-
programs and
No,
initiatives.
The Board of
Sorry, Jerry,
Education is committed to supporting programs and initiatives that overcome learning loss and help all students to succeed academically.
But not all students.
All is
are
implied
suffering.
though. I'm sorry, Jerry.
But
I don't think it's
you-
necessary to say all.
I
When
think-
you say students, it means all students.
But
You
I
have to
think-
leave students out.
I think Gerard knows it does, but it puts an emphasis.
I like it because when I first read it, I just think we're just trying, not that we are.
No.
Because I'm thinking, where does the G&T program fit in here? It fits
Right.
under goal number 1,
Sure.
and those, they may have learning loss in other areas, but we're also trying to help them explore other areas of interest and kind of pique their curiosity. So that's why I was trying to.
So,
Well, but wait, isn't that a different issue? Is that kind of student climate?
It's a program.
no, I think you're right, Nicole. I think the Board of Education is committed to supporting all programs and initiatives to help students succeed academically. I think the learning loss doesn't even have to be
You
in
can
there.
take learning loss out.
I think we can leave
I
learning
agree
loss
with
out.
that.
Okay.
Whoever just said that, I think it was Jackie. I
Take
agree with
learning
that.
loss out.
Yep. The Board of Education is committed to supporting all programs and initiatives to help students succeed academically.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Everybody go with that?
And you can put an emphasis on all if you wanted to. All.
Okay.
Okay. Take a look at
Does
number
the word
2.
help,
Okay.
does the word help kind of reduce the strength of the statement?
Okay, so you were.
To ensure students succeed academically?
Say again?
To
Ensure
ensure students
Support,
succeed
Yeah, I think
support
academically?
academic success.
Board of Education is committed to supporting programs and initiatives that ensure students succeed academically,
Never,
Ensure.
never ensure.
Yeah,
that
Sorry?
help to
Ensure.
ensure.
Never ensure.
maybe just, I don't know, I feel like help
Too
and
big a
ensure
goal,
is the
is that what you're
same
saying?
thing.
But remember, these-
To my taste.
You can't achieve it, but these are goals, and goals are not necessarily ever achieved. They're just goals.
That
Okay, I try to make achievable.
Well, you want achievable,
Programs
objectives.
and initiatives. to
Yeah, it's just my taste.
Yeah, no,
It's to your goals, I
Yeah,
don't need to get in the
I
way.
understand, I understand.
What did I originally say?
I said
almost something
It's
else.
just,
Ensure.
it qualifies the
It's
statement.
ensure.
I think
There's
we
almost
need to
something
help students succeed academically, to help students
I
succeed
mean, I like to
academically.
declare the
It's not the
sentence.
first time you and I have disagreed on wording.
Words.
How about, I
I
think
respect
help,
you, man.
I think we're helping them to succeed academically.
Cause we
We're not-
can't ensure, we can't, you
It's like
know,
it's a
just-
guarantee.
yeah.
And we've already used support, I think help is.
Yeah.
I like
I'm
to,
trying to be quiet.
just leave it
This is
help.
yours.
Yeah.
So you're gonna just take out learning loss
Loss.
and put in all?
Yes.
All programs and initiatives. Good?
All programs in it.
So
But you want
putting
to read-
all programs and initiatives
That overcome.
that help
okay,
students.
that-
You don't even need all in there. The Board of Education is committed to supporting programs and initiatives that help students to succeed academically.
There you go, just take it out.
Less is more.
Everybody online go with that?
Less
No.
is more.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Programs and initiatives.
Okay, so goal number 2 is really focused on improving our school climate. And that I feel like came about from, you know, tip investigations and talking to parents about why the students maybe felt uncomfortable in the schools. But we kind of put it all together in that statement. So it's addressing the climate,
If you got that word ensure again.
wellness.
What if we did like the Board of Education, will support climate programs and initiatives which improve student engagement, wellness, and school safety and security?
Say it one more time, Judy.
Say the Board of Education will support climate programs and initiatives which improve student engagement, wellness, and safety and security. I don't like writing "and" that many times, but
Yeah, I know.
as well as security.
Is it the same, Jalen? You just switch the words around? Like, does it
Yeah.
change the meaning?
I think it's
Miss
the same.
asking.
Yeah, no, I mean,
She's
that's.
just trying to
I'm
knock out
trying,
an ant.
like, well, knock out the "and."
Oh, okay.
And then like, I mean, like, we wrote student engagement, student wellness, like, how many times do we, I mean, like, I get that it's for students, but like, we should just say student wellness and safety, like, it's, like, they're all in that group.
Support programs and initiatives which improve school climate, student engagement, student wellness, and ensure school safety and security. I know, I like it the way it is.
You could take out the and. You just put a comma there.
Eh.
You don't need it.
And ensure, no, I
After
like the
wellness,
way
just
it is.
comma, get rid of the and,
It's
2 and sure.
that's it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I say leave it,
The first and is required
I
there.
like, could we do the 2 instead of the end?
just leave it.
Well, you need the
Fine.
first and, then the second and, you can get rid of.
Alright, should we read it? The Board of Education will support programs and initiatives which improve school climate, student engagement, student wellness, and ensure school safety and security. When you read it, it's not that bad. You just gotta not run on sentence it. You have to just kind of.
You can just get rid of that second and, just put a comma there, you don't need, there's no and required there.
I don't know.
After student wellness, comma, ensure, and that's it,
I
ensure
think you
school
need a
safety.
2. I think you
You
need
do.
2 or
You
an
need two, you
and.
need the first one and the last one.
No,
Oh,
no,
she says
the
T
word
out.
2.
To
T
Oh,
out.
also,
Ensure.
also,
Like, also ensure school safety and security.
Eh.
I don't know, my English teacher would be
I have a
rolling in
question
her
for
grave.
Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, can you hear me?
Yes.
no, I'm just kidding, go.
Here's my question, and I don't wanna drag this out. What we're saying right now, to me, is that a goal, or is it a statement? To me, it sounds like a statement of what we're gonna do, but it's not necessarily setting a goal.
What?
We
Well, I don't know if
support
that's true.
programs and initiatives.
I mean,
That's
it's
our
almost
goal.
like,
Yeah,
well,
the
then
goal
we're
is that
saying
we
the
will
first one
support.
isn't a goal either.
The goal is to improve school climate then.
Am I wrong
Okay,
for saying
that's
that?
a goal,
Same
Yeah.
thing.
right? Improving something is a goal.
Yeah, but we wanna
But
improve-
Saying that we're gonna support initiatives is not a goal, it's a statement.
Well, so is the first
So
one.
the Board of Education will improve school climate, student engagement, student wellness. I think they all start the same.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
then
and
that-
they all
if-
imply
So
these-
instead of will support, but I feel like we did this for a reason last time. What was the will support?
I don't know, I like it the way it is, I'm not gonna lie.
I can't, okay.
Hey, listen, I'm on meds, so I'm not making sense, just
The
tell
word-
me,
word-
but
I don't think the
feel
word
like it
and
has to be
makes a
a little bit
difference.
more like a, sounding like a goal.
Well, then none of them sound like a goal.
Right, that's what I'm
Well,
saying.
how do you want it to sound like a goal then?
We can take out the word will and change it to supports.
By putting in something that says like what we're looking to accomplish, so for example, if we're talking about school climate, a goal could be to have every student leave the school every day with a smile on their face. That may sound silly, but it's an example of, that's a goal, right? A goal could be to have less than 5 hits in a year, right? That's a goal. Just supporting
How about to
initiatives is
decrease?
a great thing, but it's not a goal.
That's what I was thinking too. The difference between a goal and objective,
It's measurable.
right?
Goals are not generally measurable.
Can you
They're
hear
not
him?
measurable.
Goals are not measurable. Objectives are.
Goals can be whatever you want them
think-
to be.
So
But it's
then
back
what
to
is
what
it-
I was saying before,
Right.
some of these go to my objectives, but they're called
Yeah.
superintendent goals.
So our goal would be
Yeah.
to improve school climate, and Joe's objective maybe would to be to like,
To measure.
to measure that somehow, like a decrease in hits.
Well, no, to provide the programs that will
Well,
accomplish that.
That was gonna say, what if we change it to the Board of Education will provide programs and initiatives which improve school climate?
Yeah,
And
but
then
you
that
don't-
the goal is
but you
to
don't
provide
provide
programs.
We don't provide it.
You know, I think support basically means provide, in the sense that you're, when you say support, you mean, approve,
Yeah.
approve and advocate for,
Yeah.
but, you know what I mean, like,
I like
Maybe
the
we
way,
should
I
be-
didn't like the way
Maybe
it is,
instead
so.
of support, we write advocate. We'll advocate for programs and initiatives that will improve school climate.
Jerry, Reed.
I mean, it's a goal.
Yeah,
I'm fine with this.
as I read this, the Board of Education will support, it gives me the impression that we haven't done this in the past. So I would just suggest that we insert the word, or the words, will continue to support.
Particularly if we're using similar ones from the
From
previous
last
year,
year.
it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm good, I completely agree with that, I like that. We'll continue to support, I like that.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in my diary.
I'm right?
Okay, so we're just gonna add that, to continue to support.
That's it for the year, Jerry. I'm done.
You've done your job.
I did.
Okay. Everybody online, okay?
I mean, I
Okay,
don't like
number
the
3.
finance, but-
The board will continue to investigate, so we have the continue, to investigate alternate means of fiscal responsibility to provide students with a thorough and efficient education in a financially responsible manner.
Ugh.
I want to add like through feasibility study, so like, is that too
Wanna do
specific?
That can be mine.
Yeah,
Okay,
that is objective.
Right, exactly.
okay,
That's a
Okay,
feasibility
cool.
study goes to him.
right, okay, I'm fine with that one, the way it is.
I am too.
Okay.
The
Everybody
only-
else?
Yeah, the only question that I would have there is, how do you interpret alternative means? We'd like to investigate every possible opportunity.
Yeah.
All means?
That statement allows you to do that.
I think
Yeah, it says
means like,
investigate all.
non-traditional, like, I don't know, like out of
Thinking
the box.
outside the box.
Do you want
Okay,
non-traditional
just
instead
the
of
way I think
alternative?
about it, there are no
Or just all.
non-traditional means.
Why don't we just change it
Um,
to all?
Yeah, maybe we should just change it to all instead of alternative.
Investigate all means of fiscal,
Yeah. The Board of Education will continue to investigate all means of fiscal responsibility to provide students with a thorough and efficient education. Just change it to all.
Yeah, now I agree with you.
alright,
This
stop
is a
loving each other.
Bonus, this is a bonus day.
Going
It's a
home.
love
Good thing
fest.
it's on recording too, right?
I know, I know, this is a bonus day.
Before?
Yep. Alright, so for the benefit of students, the Board of Education will communicate and foster relationship with the larger community to create learning opportunities and partnerships. I don't have any issues with this goal.
Will continue to?
Okay.
Benefit of the students.
We'll continue to communicate.
Yep.
I mean, what's the purpose of writing for the benefit of students?
I remember being upset about that one last year.
No,
I'm
I'm
not
just-
gonna be upset this time.
How about we just say, oh, because it doesn't all start with, so
Similar-
we start with
similar
the
roots
Board of
and support.
Education will continue.
I mean, there's no, like, these are goals, we can write them however we want, and I understand, like, people are, like, we don't wanna sound like we're reiterating the same thing, but then again, my whole thing goes back to the second goal where we write "and" twice at the end of a sentence, and I find that utterly annoying, but, there's.
Oh, we took it out.
Right, no, it's fine, it's, you know, but I'm just saying, for the benefit of the students, what are we accomplished by just changing that around? I mean, if we're, maybe to create the same, like, across the board,
Yes.
there's no wrong with starting them all the same way. There really isn't.
Right, and you just put for the benefit of the students at the
Yeah.
end. So started off with the Board of Education will continue to communicate and foster relationships with a larger community to create learning opportunities and partnerships for the benefit of the students.
Yeah.
In the end, all of these are This supposed way to
all-
benefit the
what?
students.
Yes, I like
All-
that. Okay,
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
But
Golden.
basically, like, what we're really saying is that these goals are good, we wanna continue doing these things, so we're
I
just
agree.
changing words.
So do
Fine.
you wanna write
Mine is
continue in there somewhere too?
Yes, the Board of Education will continue to communicate and foster relations with the larger community to create learning opportunities and partnerships for the benefit of the students.
Perfect.
Okay, and the last one, the board will continue to evaluate and implement campus enhancements that support student learning and their academic experiences.
Like painting parking spots.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
That goes to
right.
climate, that's a different one.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
In the Beautification Days.
And we already have the will continue. So I'm sure we have the beautification days, hopefully we'll do some more things inside and outside, and then,
Boy, we wrote good goals last year.
yeah, we spent a lot of time on
You
it.
can have one activity that supports two goals, such as the beautification.
Oh, yeah, okay, so
Awesome.
those were,
I mean, like any of our projects, they can fall underneath multiple goals.
right, they're
course.
general.
Yeah.
Of course.
I think Scott had a great idea. When we do the agenda items,
Yep,
Yeah.
perhaps we can cross-reference those agenda items to the goals that we've adopted here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Not-
said.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Then continue. What did I miss?
when Scott says that, you made it in the bathroom, were you doing it?
No, he said,
No,
I
it was
heard
right
what
there.
Scott said.
Yeah, we all,
He's
we all appreciate that.
reinforcing it from before.
Oh.
Yes,
I mean, we're
we're
on a
gonna
good
do
page
that.
tonight, man.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah,
it's a good-
basically from now on,
good
we're gonna
start.
do all that.
Okay, so, it seems like we're comfortable with the board goals. What I would appreciate is if I draft up some superintendent objectives.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to share that out and get your feedback so that when it appears, I would like it to be approved before September. I don't think it has to
Sure.
be, I think it has to be approved
Makes
before
sense.
end of September. But to me, it makes sense,
That
the
makes sense,
superintendent
yeah.
has goals before the school year starts. If it's gonna be something where you think we need more time, we have it, but,
And the objectives can and should be both qualitative and quantitative.
I can effort to do that for sure.
Yeah.
How many goals do you normally make?
But
I mean objectives,
I would try to take one from each.
one from each of these.
I would think you'd have like several objectives per goal. Well, but you know
Well,
what, figure it out,
let me
figure it
take-
out,
let me
figure
take
it
a
out.
stab.
Right. Yeah, cause like the ones where we kind of put a bunch in there, maybe that one,
Yep.
break it
Yeah.
out.
Okay. So that, what I just said was related to that other bullet point there. So if you're comfortable, I'll move on to discussion topics, if you're okay with me reading that quote.
Yes,
So
please.
do we have to, wait, do we have to approve the goals?
Not yet.
No.
Or,
We'll write them up, draft them,
Think we
add them
can
to
approve
the agenda for the end of the month.
Oh, okay,
and-
okay.
And do formal approval
Okay.
if the board is good with that.
Yes.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Jeff, any chance you can turn this off because it turned blue and it's like, oppressive?
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to find a long stick. I don't, oh, there's
I think you just press the button there, no? Or that? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. There we go, thanks. All right, so, I alluded to this at the last meeting, and I wanted to revisit. So I'm a little frustrated that there was the bill S464, which was passed 39-0 in the Senate back in March. This bill, and in fact, maybe council has some insight on it, but this bill would have allowed schools to go virtual for snow days and have it count as one of the days. This was happening at the time we were creating the next year's calendar, or actually this year's calendar, as it were. I was anticipating, since it got 39-0 passing, and it was back in March, that by the time we got to this school year, that would have been codified into law. I'm hearing that there's like a stalemate, in that some people want to limit it to only 2 or 3 days of virtual snow days, and some want it up to 6 or up to 5, and they just can't agree with the number of days, which to me is super annoying, because in our calendar, we have 4 built-in snow days, and then I have a little asterisk that says any days beyond 4 will be automatic virtual snow days in compliance with anticipating this will go through. So long story short, I want to have a conversation with you that if this isn't codified into law, and maybe you know something I don't know, that it's going to happen before snow hits, but if it doesn't, and we have 5 snow days, that 5th snow day, we can add it to the end of the year. But I thought we made great efforts not to have a moving target at the end of the year, because we had people here complaining that graduation was changing. And so we made every effort to have a solid date. Right now, our last day of school, I'm gonna get excited. Right now, our last day of school is on a Friday, which is kind of nice. If we get a snow day that we add to the end of the year, we would have to come back on a Monday. No, we wouldn't. We'd have to come back on a Tuesday, because that Monday is Juneteenth. So what could be more annoying to the public than adding a day and then having a special vacation day and then waiting for the last day?
Nobody will show up.
But
Practically speaking, you're right. Basically, we can cut into spring break, which is going to be just as unpopular. Or we can take a gamble that we're not going to have more than 4 snow days, and that this is going to become law. Do you have any updates on whether it's going to be, or am I?
I wish I did, right? So it's no real updates, no giant movements that so far that I can see. One thing we're telling clients is obviously, so I'll say this, a lot of districts did exactly what you did. They think this bill moved very quickly. If you look around the country, a lot of other states have done something similar to this, because all the equipment and such was put into place. Makes sense. The educational impact benefits and the like got a little hold up, but for the most part, it seemed like there was pretty good movement. At this point, it makes sense the district at least have a contingency plan. The reason I bring that up is you do not want to take away spring break last minute. Because what happens if you take away spring break last minute is you're going to get a lot of staff members that said, well, I already purchased tickets, right? And you'll get a lot of families that says, well, I've already purchased plane tickets, and I don't want to give that up. Things like that. And so that's why school districts always like to post their calendar very early and their contingency plans very early. So this way we say, look, we told you that this was a possibility. So you're going to make your own plane tickets and the like at your own risk. And so I think that's why Joe wants to have this conversation now, because you just have to be prepared for what the state may or may not do.
And I did reach out to the HEA about this very issue, because the calendar is always discussed with the HEA. And so I'm not expecting to get right back to me so quick in the summer, but there is an email out to them explaining the entire situation as I presented it to you. Basically, rock hard place. Do you want to have a moving target at the end of the year that includes another vacation day, Juneteenth, or do you want to break into spring break, or third option, do you want to roll the dice, hope we don't have more than 4 snow days, which maybe we will, and take it from there.
Why can't we just do Zoom on whenever the snow is really bad, or bad enough that you would normally close, just say it's going to be a Zoom day?
No, that's what the bill would have had.
No, we'll just do it ourselves. We don't need
No,
the
so
bill to
there's
do
a
it.
statutory minimum days that students have to be in the school.
Physically.
So, and it only counts towards the school day if they're here. And COVID made an exception to an extent.
Please.
But you had to have 3 in a row.
Yeah, you had 3, well, originally, obviously, it went virtual, and then it went to 3 days in a row that we can go.
Oh, for God's
And so that's where we're at. The bill would essentially remove that requirement and allow a virtual day to count towards your minimum required school days.
Right.
So is there a way to move, so we typically have Good Friday off, right?
Yes.
Is there a way to move that to a half day? Or would that fill that requirement?
So you have, that's
That's
part
It's
of
a
spring break.
contractual,
Is it contractual?
it's a
Jeff?
holiday.
It is, okay.
So, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, if you do the spring break thing, like if you take a day off at the end, I think that's how I do it, what's in the contract that would, is there anything in the contract that prevents staff from taking off days that are backed up against a holiday?
In the past, well,
Cause then
actually,
you run into sub issues, I feel like.
yeah, it's just gonna be something we don't have
Who's
to
the big about
negotiate with the HEA. It's gonna be a mess.
Wow, I would love graduation to actually be on June 16th. I think until we figure out what's gonna happen, what the state's gonna do with this bill, I think we have to let people know it's a tentative date and it may move and, pending the determination of this.
Yeah.
And this is something that's not new, and ever since we all went to high school, depending on snow days, the dates got moved. We'll do everything in our best power to have the 16th. Me personally, that would be the most perfect day, because I always have the party the day, party for the boil the day after. I got a graduating senior this year,
Is graduation
and while I got
the
everybody in
16th?
town, that'd be the most perfect, but I think we have to put tentative.
Well, and the board cannot change the calendar whenever the board
Right, but
wants.
we tell parents right
with
now,
the HEA,
tentative.
you know.
Yeah, so again, it's with the,
So.
you get staff members push back with plaintiff, and like, the outside of that, you have exclusive control over the school calendar, right? There are some contractual vacations, but when school starts, when school ends, things like that, that is within the board's purview. That's
This
a
is why we need to
non-negotiable.
start before November.
Mm.
This is why we need to start before November.
I think the other issue that came up with the calendar is that like the prom and the last day of school and graduation were all like jumbled together, so if we wind up making graduation a moving
It's gonna get
target, we
more.
can aim to at least make sure that prom is not,
Well, prom doesn't have to be a moving target, you know.
right, or not even a moving target, like I think their concern was that it was too many things on top of
They
each
were trying to
other.
put them on the same
Right.
day.
I think
They tried to put them
okay.
on the same day.
And I think
didn't
we're
happen.
locked into whatever venue they use, but
Right.
it's just something to
It
keep
didn't
in mind, cause it
happen,
wasn't
so.
just graduation day, it was
So if we
like
start
the other
school earlier,
festivities
right?
surrounding graduation that were an issue.
Well, I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but am I hearing that you would prefer we add days to the end of the calendar over taking days from spring break?
Yeah.
I agree with that.
That's
I think for this year, since we already agreed to it, we'll have made plans.
I agree for this year, but I think next year we should start before Labor Day.
Okay. Alright, so
Okay.
then I'll talk to the HEA about, look, there's an outside possibility. This bill still may become law.
Right.
Yeah, there's no question.
And we still might not have more than 4 snow days.
And maybe get notice out to the senior parents, not right now.
Right, and you put tentative on the calendar
Yeah.
for the date, and you can also put, 2 asterisks, one for tentative and 2 asterisks depending on this bill that we're waiting for it to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, thanks, Cynthia, I'm sorry for the mic.
Yeah, no.
So, another topic, and I think this is from you, Mr. Grunfelder. How can we best keep board members abreast of information that's happening in individual communities? How can we best communicate across committee, right? Was that your question?
Exactly.
I know that in the past, we've tried to have like Google Classrooms or sharing the minutes around. I mean, is that, we could also have committee reports.
You know, I think, from my perspective, I think, just sharing the minutes.
Yeah.
When I met with the focus group, I think I gave you a page and a half worth of notes.
Yeah.
Which I would hope you would have shared with the entire board. And if we did the same thing with the other 2 committees, I think that would satisfy,
I think I did. I know for sure I
Yeah, I
shared with
remember
Yeah,
seeing,
yeah.
I remember seeing, you sent it out. I remember seeing minutes from your meeting.
yes, I wasn't talking about my meeting.
Oh, did you?
Oh, okay.
The minutes from the other 2 committees. And I think that would be an important step in keeping everybody on the same page.
So you're saying instead of putting them on the Google Classroom? Cause that's where you put them, right?
Yeah.
As far as I know, I mean, I see the minutes from the operations.
I didn't know that they were, if they're accessible, then that's
No,
fine.
but clearly they're not, it's, maybe everyone's not able to access them. Like, if everyone's not seeing them, like, I have to do a better job of making sure everybody can get them.
I just check to see if everybody's on the class.
Maybe Jerry's.
Yeah, I can check.
Cause when he posts them, I get an email that says the minutes have been posted.
Yes,
Right.
So then I know to go and
Did you
look.
sign up for an alert on that, or it just doesn't?
That's what I'm saying, I don't
Yeah,
know, I
that's
mean,
why I'm
something I
trying
set
to
up,
wonder
yeah.
if I missed something to tell me.
So we can check, they sent us some directions on how to set up.
Why did we take committee,
We took committee
Oh,
report, I
committee.
wasn't on
Committee
there
report
then, but I
on
remember
the
Candace
agenda.
saying like, you're already like all the,
Everything's
everything
on the agenda. I
is
remember-
on the agenda from the committee.
I remember that too. Scott, what do you think?
No,
I don't know
no.
if Scott's still there. Scott, what do you think about committee reports at a board meeting? Or would you, I know Candace advocated for that to be, taken away.
Her reasoning
Yeah,
was that there's stuff all.
I mean, my opinion is that I think it's redundant. I think Candace was right. But that said, if you know, the majority of the board wants to do it, I'm not gonna object.
Just because, like, that one meeting we had when the Tulsa Trail roof was brought up, if many of us had no idea that it was a problem to begin with, we had no idea that how much money was going in, and we had no much, you know, we could have had it fixed a couple years ago a lot cheaper. You know, we were totally in the dark not knowing about it. Because we weren't on that committee.
Well, also the committee reports, if we added them, it doesn't mean you have to go through the whole committee, but you could just highlight a couple of really key things. I don't know, it's up to you, Scott.
I like seeing the committee report,
The
the committee
agenda.
minutes.
Just the minutes.
I wanna see the minutes. That's
So
what
maybe
I-
if we ensure that everyone gets the minutes,
That's something you can do.
then we'd have a reasonable assurance, that maybe our insurance for that would appreciate.
Yeah, I'm
Just had to
So
go
is
there.
right now,
I don't know.
are you correct that right now not everybody's getting minutes?
I don't know, it seems that way, so I gotta double check our classroom and make sure everyone really has access.
Okay,
But that's all I'll do, I'll check.
okay.
If it's in, if I know where it is and I know where to find it, then that's fine. I did not know, where it was.
I'll double check.
I didn't know how to access it.
Okay.
Fair.
I'm fine with
He
that.
sends out, he or actually Brittany, I think, sends out an email basically saying that they're ready and here's the link to go look at them. And you see there's two links, one for operations and one for SAC. That's the way I've seen them in the past.
Yep.
I'll double check.
Then that would be fine with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Freedom to learn, we did discuss it. I don't know, Phil, is there anything else you'd like to add?
You mentioned to me a while ago that Mrs. or Ms. Longo was going to be, you were going to talk to her about
Yes.
some of these ideas?
And I talked to Mr. McFadden about talking to Ms. Longo, but I haven't talked to Ms. Longo yet.
Okay.
Because she's on summer break and
Okay, all right.
but I'm planning. Ms. Longo, if you're watching, on the first days of school, I will find you and you will be joining some meetings. I know, just to give more context, she's in classes to get her principal's certificate. And so
Good
she's
for
got
her.
to do internship hours, and she had asked me if any big projects she could work on, particularly in areas that are kind of outside her normal purview,
Mhm.
she would appreciate. And this falls right into that category.
Okay, good, so just asking that question.
Yeah.
So I remember, like I knew we talked about it, I gave you some ideas, Phil, or some questions I had
Yeah.
about it. So everything is still getting like worked through though, like the whole, all the details haven't been
Well,
worked out, because the concern was like.
there's a lot to it, it's
Okay.
got much broader than what my original vision is,
Okay.
which is fine. Basically, it's going to be an amalgamation of several thoughts as well as several of the software packages that were discussed today.
Okay.
As far as the meeting the goals, all of those, it's going to be all part
Okay.
of this one concept. But we're still going to have, I hope, the idea of giving special help to kids that are not quite doing so well. I
Okay.
love the concept of, we don't accept failure here.
Right.
You gotta do something, you gotta improve your lot.
Mission
So-
statement, vision statement.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit broader, and then it's gonna be way beyond my ability as a board member to put this together. I mean, all I can hope to do is help guide a little bit. But it's really going to be the teaching staff and the superintendent that basically put together a plan of action. And this is how we're going to address non-performing students specifically. And again, I want to emphasize it's ELA and it's math. And with ELA, I'll add one more comment about ELA, and it's not just about reading, writing, and reading and writing. It's also about presentation skills and speaking publicly. So a teacher who is a stage teacher,
Drama.
a drama teacher could actually help there. Maybe have one student who's really bad at giving presentations in front of the class. Send the kid to a couple of drama classes and have him perform, so to speak. I don't know. All I'm saying is that you should open the kids' minds to do something outside their comfort zone to improve themselves.
Thank you.
And Nicole,
Can I say something on that?
yeah, go Scott.
I think that's a really good point, and I don't know how to execute it, but like, I can envision a scenario where a teacher, at the end of the school year, as part of their evaluation of the student, puts in a couple of areas of weaknesses, and I think Phil might be onto something here. If you have a student that's shy, you might want to get them into an elective that's like in theater, to get them up on a stage and kind of get out of their comfort zone. That could be pretty cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do. Although I'm also concerned or afraid that if you push them too hard into that area, it could have very negative effects. So you have to leave that to the psychologists and the teachers to figure out what's the right technique.
But it is sort of interesting that a lot of times, speaking specifically about the high school level, we talk about kids taking electives based on their interest in what they do well,
Right.
and continuing to build on their
Right.
talents,
That's
rather
different.
than
What
saying
they're
to a
weak.
kid, "Hey, there's actually a big weakness. You should take this class."
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think it's, but it's
Yeah, that's a
I think it's
conversation,
good
that's a conversation, right.
Um,
And that's something a guidance counselor.
yeah.
I mean, I have a daughter who can perform on a stage but refuses to take public speaking as a class.
Is that right?
That's why
Wants nothing to do with public speaking but can perform
different.
as good as anybody on stage, but does not want anything to do with public speaking as a class. Go figure.
Last thing here
That's
is,
preparedness, though, but we'll discuss this some other time.
okay, last thing here is policy discussions, which, remember, this is not a first reading.
Right.
That, our first reading will be at the meeting later this month. To highlight some of them, we already know about the high school representative. We've been ready for that, so this is the policy there. The Board of Ed website accessibility, that's kind of simple stuff. That, again, the M's are mandatory. Every student succeeds. I think all they're changing there, if I remember, it's like from parents to family.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they changed the words,
There
right?
was some wording, minor wording changes.
School-sponsored publications, that's we're abolishing that based on recommendation from Strauss. Dress and grooming, that 4216 is support staff. We are simply adding it to mirror, word for word, essentially, what we put last year for teachers. It doesn't make sense that we never updated it for support staff. Certainly the aides shouldn't have a different dress code than the teachers. And care of school property, that's a mandatory revision. School district issued student ID cards, that just says all students, I'm gonna forget the grade, I think it's grade 6 on, have to have student ID cards with them. And student journalism is a law, so we're mandated to have this in place by September. So that gives us this coming meeting and September's meeting to put it in place. That was a recent law. And Phil and I talked, he had a lot of ideas, and in our conversations, I hope I don't misrepresent them,
Go ahead.
we kind of agreed that most of them were regulation-based. And so if we can put this policy in place to be in compliance, which again is mandatory based on law, then we can spend more time kind of parsing out all the details of that, which would be found in the regulation, and we just wouldn't implement.
Right, my concern was that it's too open-ended. I read the statute as well as the policy.
Yeah.
So, in the statute, which is virtually the same in many cases, but it leaves it way open to basically any student can become a journalist. And then we are responsible, we the board, the school is then responsible for providing the resources to enable that individual to be a journalist. And that includes giving them a mentor. I forget the phrase that they use, I always forget. But basically, they would have to mentor a teacher that would basically instruct them or help them do their publications. And then the actual publication itself, we would provide them the resources to do that. And literally, the way the law reads, any student can do this. So if every student wanted to be a journalist, we'd have a problem. I
That
mean, there's
includes
too many
photography
resources.
too, right?
Sorry?
It includes photography as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Yeah,
photography,
photojournal.
video,
Yeah.
well, everything. So it's again really dicey. So what Joe and I have to nail down basically is to create the regulation which gives you the how we're going to actually do this. So before, even if we pass the policy, before we can actually implement the policy in the school systems, we really do need to have some kind of regulation which defines how it's going to be implemented in our school system. So what I was suggesting was that we, sorry, say again?
Do we have a student's paper?
Do we have a student paper? Do the
No,
students
no,
publish
no,
a
the
newspaper?
regulation says the school will pay for it.
I don't
No, he
understand.
said
I don't
encouraging to
understand.
be a school newspaper.
Say a school newspaper. We have
Oh.
Like an online.
we have like a publication. We
Right.
also have a journal. We also have
Right.
video journalism. So we have a variety of different ones in all sorts of angles. So
Because to me, that would satisfy the regulation, right? If a student could join the student, you know, I call it a newspaper because I'm getting older, but, you know, maybe it's an online thing where they write articles and they publish,
Right.
and then there's an editor, and it's a student, and then there's a faculty advisor that kind of runs the whole thing. Wouldn't that satisfy that?
No. That's the problem. That's the problem though, Scott.
That's what I'm
That
saying.
sounds wrong.
Say again?
no,
Wait,
it does satisfy it partially. It's just not in the, I think the spirit is what Phil's saying, that really any kid with a curiosity
Right.
we have to be able to foster that.
Right.
And actually more than foster that, directly support it with staff.
Right, right.
I don't understand why that's not just,
Well,
I think I'm just confused by why this isn't this just something that we already have?
This is a mandatory
that-
policy now.
The way the policy and the regulations state,
Confused.
the way it's read, it's basically any student can say, I wanna be a journalist.
Well, but can't they do that today?
Oh, I don't know. Can they?
I mean,
Yeah, but
I-
the difference is we have to provide them the tools, a person to go to, a mentor.
But you could say in regulation, we do
already
provide it
have
to
that.
you just have to do X, Y,
Okay,
Z.
like-
But that's what the regulation is.
we don't have, I thought we already, isn't that a club?
Yeah,
or-
but
That's-
but this is saying you don't have to be a part of the club. It's just like if you wanna do it,
That's
you
right.
get it. So now our regulation is
But a
mandatory.
regulation could be, you have to be a
it could
part of the
single,
club.
a single
Right.
individual wants to publish his or her,
Okay.
or
Do
their,
you know this
sorry,
as well, David?
their own
Yeah.
I
publication.
think this is really odd. I think it's really odd. I don't, that's, fine, we'll do whatever, but it's odd to me.
Discussion I found, so.
It is a bit
I
odd.
don't get it.
I find it odd as well. Why did they choose journalism? Why not auto mechanics or any other
Yeah,
profession?
it's weird.
I really don't know.
Freedom of speech, I don't know.
It's a freedom of speech, it's definitely a freedom of speech issue.
Yeah.
without a doubt.
And I get it. Then we have to,
But
then we
there's
have to
also
monitor
things
what
you
they're.
can't talk about too, in the regulation, it does say, not the regulation, in the,
Policy.
actually,
The law.
in the statute, it actually gives you a list of things that cannot be addressed. It's not a big list, and it's
That's
pretty
so
broad.
odd. Okay, I think it's odd.
And, I guess this doesn't really matter, but, we had somebody, Scott, you'll remember this, somebody that like emailed me and you and was like, hey, just a reminder, in August, you have to approve this or else you're gonna run out of time in September. And I was like, yeah, I know, who are you? Like, somebody like
Right.
really
Somebody's
interested in
looking
this.
into it,
So,
Is that right?
you know,
Gotta make sure we're
whenever
covered.
there's a new law or something, there's
Sure.
people that advocate for it, but I guess this guy's going through like every district, making sure, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do it, don't worry.
Oh,
It's
okay.
mandated. But anyway.
Well, I will send you all my notes that I had sent back and forth between myself and the superintendent.
If you have,
Like I signed one step, we'll figure it out.
if you have anything from Forcio that can give us guidance on it, I mean, we would provide
Yeah,
that.
if you wanna send over your policy, we can just take a quick,
Okay, alright.
adjust it over.
And then G&T, is just gonna reflect that, we do have, sorry, gifted and talented, we do have it for our students in grades 2 through 7. We're not required to have it in K1. And you must qualify for G&T, for gifted and talented, because I want to say this charitably, with a lot of respect and love for everybody, but I think a lot of parents want to believe their kids are gifted and talented. And I don't want to be sensitive, like I respect and love all the parents that think that, but when we say gifted and talented, it actually has a specific definition based on a percentile. And in many ways, being gifted and talented is not an easy path for a child. There's smart kids and there's hardworking kids, and then there's gifted kids, and a lot of times they really struggle for a variety of other reasons. So, look, we are testing kids. We're going to be using the COGAT. That's a well-known tool for determining this, and what the data shows, the data will show. And if those kids are score as gifted, we're going to make sure we service them, as is our duty.
Do a lot of schools test like this?
Yeah, yeah, we haven't, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I know, because I just remember being in gifted and talent, and you could just sign up.
Back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
But like,
not that I went to like high school that long
It's
ago.
it's changed. Yeah.
but it's a little different at the high school too, though, right?
At the high school, we're not doing it at the high school. 'cause
Right, the high school, that's a little different, maybe that's what
Okay.
you're thinking
Yeah,
of.
that's
So
what
like,
I'm
if
thinking of
there's
high
so
school.
like at my high school, there's students who are like, competitive cheerleaders, and they
Right.
just, that's their passion. So they would join the gifted and talented program, they still have to have a mentor,
Okay.
but then they get, the ability to go to these competitions
Okay.
and things like that. I don't know if that's, like, almost like option 2, I guess.
It's
at the high
option 2.
So that, but we call that gifted and talented
Working
too,
current,
so.
where we have,
Okay.
the high school provides you a bazillion different
But
opportunities.
this is a testing just for middle school, right?
Elementary and middle,
And
just
middle.
not early elementary. Because in early elementary, you get some, what's the word, enrichment? Is that what they call it, Jim?
Yep.
Enrichment.
Even then, I had to fill out a paper.
Well,
Okay.
trying to follow rules.
No, it's interesting.
All
And
right.
then,
I'm
go ahead.
glad we're doing it.
No, I was gonna say, is anybody have anything they wanna discuss? We're all good?
Yeah.
No more emails from the public?
Refreshing my box right now, just to make sure.
Oh, I thought you meant like in general.
Oh, Justin messaged me, Justin McCarthy. He had two events that were really well received from the public. A lot of people came, and I should have mentioned it in the superintendent's report. But special thank you to Justin. We're actually going to try to work out having him come during September 1st or 2nd to do a teacher training, open to teachers can volunteer to be trained to try to incorporate it into their class, which I think is really nice.
Mhm.
Did he bring in a different telescope? He used the telescope that.
He used the telescope.
he would-
Okay. No other board comment, public comment? Would any board members like to make an additional comment?
I will see you Saturday, August 20th at 12 o'clock.
Same.
I have stuff to say.
Okay.
All right, first of all, fundraising is going big for football and Chiefs Cheer. We're asking for people to join the Touchdown Club. It'll help sponsor the Friday night dinners and banquets and stuff like that. We also have 50/50s we're selling, so if you can reach out to any cheer parent or football parent, that'd be greatly appreciated. Let's see what else. Chiefs are also selling reusable bags, the shopping bags, because we're needing there. So if you can reach out to Melissa Levis or Cheryl Latito or myself, we'll get you the bags. Over the weekend, Chiefs Cheer had gone to camp. They were dropped off on Sunday morning. They were picked up on Wednesday after their performance. A couple of our girls won awards. In general, our team in general won 2 gold ribbons. 2 girls made All-American. Angelina Zamito made it for Macy's Parade. She was invited to perform in that. And Mia Bigliotti was invited to perform in London.
No way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like
So-
London, Texas, or?
No,
I asked the same thing. I asked the same thing.
Right. So whether they're able to do this or not, but the fact that they were actually asked to
Wow.
do it is amazing.
Pretty neat.
And my daughter had one on the first day, a Pin It Forward Award, which shows leadership. And then she was given another one that she had to pass on to somebody else when she saw somebody doing something good or whatever. So, and we took second place in our division on Wednesday when we were all competing.
No broken ankles this time. It might have been- All right.
No, I mean, well, there was other issues, but not with our girls. We were good to go. Also, on August 23rd at 7 p.m. at the high school cafeteria outside in the area, we are having our first open meeting for project graduation class of 2023.
We will also be there on Saturday.
Yes, we will be there Saturday.
Representing
Oh,
Project
the-
Grad.
right.
That's part of why we'll be there, for representing Project Grad. Great, Jake.
And that's it for me.
Oh, and then PTO is still, high school PTO is still looking for members. And August 30th is high school orientation.
Oh,
Parent, high school, August 30th in the evening. 8th, 9th, and 10th, 8th and 9th grades are the first half of the event. 10th, 11th, and 12th are the second half of the event. Stephanie Martinez, Kurt Zimmerman, and Pete Osen will all be there, giving out swag. So great night for an orientation for parents to come see the high school
And sign up to volunteer.
and sign up to volunteer. Hopefully PTO will be there to bring your membership, $5 to be a member of the parent-teacher organization. So bring $5 cash. That's it, right? Good stuff. And
That's
school
gentlemen down
starts.
there, you're all good? Okay, I just wanna wrap up by saying, I love seeing all of these things on paper. We had a tough year, I felt like, with COVID and our financial situation. It makes me really proud to look at all of the accomplishments we've made. Not that there isn't more room to grow, but I feel good about the goals we had, the progress we made, and what we're gonna do moving forward. So thank you all for being a part of that process. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Joe, good job with this. This was a great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank
you.
Have a good night.
Compared to on the
So
first
long,
one
everybody.
I saw,
Feel better, Scott.
like,
Bye.
the PowerPoint we had
Bye.
on this, not the